There we go. All right. So, you guys ready? Should we do this?
Ready.
All
I'm
right.
ready.
Rock and roll.
100% ready.
Hello, world, and welcome
100%.
to our podcast where three pals with different viewpoints and thoughts who really don't know much fly by the seat of their pants, discussing news, politics, conspiracy theories, and much, much more. Two are geniuses,
And one is an idiot.
or
Whoa.
all three of them idiots, or all three of them geniuses.
Or are we
You be the
all
judge.
geniuses?
Well, yeah, you be the judge. Obviously, we're not geniuses now. Thank you. Now, live
We're
from
quite
beautiful
slow.
Central Florida. Welcome
No,
to
the
No-Brainer.
soundboard threw me off. It was cool. Super cool. I liked it. I didn't realize even that's what a soundboard did. See?
Welcome to
Now it doesn't
Political
throw me
No-Brainer.
off though.
Your host to your right, always right, never wrong, completely right, is me, Zach. And to your moderate right, middle right, but he's really an undercover mega, is Derek. And to your left, left out, left alone. I don't know. Left on third base when he played Little League. It's Coach Trippi. What's up, guys?
Hey there, everyone.
Hi. All right. So tonight we got a really special guest. His name is Kevin Howard. He is a published author. The book is called Onward at Last. Kevin, welcome to the big show.
Hey, fellas, so good to be here. And
So
looking
great to
forward to
have
the
you.
conversation. Well, hey, looking forward to the conversation. It's
You-
now four. Well, okay, I was going to say four idiots. It's just four guys sitting on the back porch,
We are.
getting ready to get deep in it. So
You know,
I'm all
that's
here.
funny. It's funny. We have a guy comes on, Coach Darrell, and he says, we're just a bunch of guys sitting on the porch chopping it up. I must be a military
know-
thing, because I say it. I say chopping up. That's my old roots.
So I
Uh,
usually give a commentary on the intro each week, and I just want to, my observations, Trippy. When you were supposed to say, "Are all they all geniuses?" and we're just staring at you, thinking that your camera froze, you just solidified that idiot or genius were definitely all slow.
Well, here's the thing. That's what threw me. That's what threw me.
Derek, didn't I tell you if you didn't throw him?
Can he just say, "Yeah, that was funny"?
I was funny.
Why does he? Trippy, the sky is blue. Argue it.
Guys, I got a new toy, so just bear with me. I'm gonna have fun tonight. We're gonna be clowning, but we're gonna interview somebody. We're gonna do a serious interview. Nothing's ever serious on this show,
No.
other than some of our good fights. But so Kevin, tell us about yourself. You're an author. Where are you from?
And
What the heck is your book about?
well, born and raised, and hopefully we're gonna start from the start. Born and raised in the Bronx, New York.
The boogie
You know,
down.
The boogie down, the B town, yes.
Right.
And I am coming in from Oregon. So I've kind of made my whole manifest destiny thing, cutting across all the way across the country. And now I live in Oregon, but I'm originally from New York, from the Bronx. And so I go way back with Trump and his family because they're from Queens.
Right.
And a little about myself. I joined the military right out of high school and stuff like that. Served 4 years active duty. Colin Powell was my corps commander, served under Reagan. So yes, I just dated myself. And
we're all there except for the guy to this side.
No. I'm cool with that.
You're cool with that?
I know the good
old.
parts of history.
Derek, are you the millennials group? Is that what's going on?
Am I really? Yeah, probably the tail end.
You are a millennial. I know me and
The millennial goes to
I don't
about
know,
age
Trippi, you're a
42
boomer,
or
I think,
43.
aren't you?
Yeah.
I don't know the age groups. I know all the terms.
It's Gen X, Trippi. You're not boomer.
I'm a Gen Xer.
Yeah.
I am a
That sounds
borderline
right.
Gen Xer right here. 65, 1965. So
You're what,
I will take it.
66?
You do not look and sound 65, man. So I'll give you that compliment right there. I'm a-
1965. 1965. 59. Yeah, there we go.
okay,
But,
good. Because I was going to
that's-
put you about 50. So I'm still going to compliment you. I'm not like, it's just like it's like a pretty good compliment, just
Well, I'm gonna
not
let
like
you
an
in a little
amazing
secret.
compliment. Like it's
Yeah.
still a compliment. Like
9
just you can
years is
scale it down
good.
from a 10 to a 9.2. That's still acceptable, bro.
Derek,
Hey, Derek, I'm holding
sorry.
out though, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. But
Kevin,
yeah,
Kevin,
so
what's your nationality?
well, okay, I'm okay. So mother is from Panama, first
Okay.
generation naturalized American. Father is an African American, 12
There it
generations,
is.
all of that stuff,
I just got to say, black don't crack. That's why, Derek. Come on.
That's it. We had to get that in front. Yeah.
I think
I don't
that's
know what
worse
that
than the
means.
F-bomb.
No, that's a fact. Trippy doesn't he doesn't hang
Roll
around
with
with
it.
enough brothers to understand what it's like to be out in the hood with me. You got to come roll with
Exactly.
the hood, Trip.
So yeah, so after I got married at 18, joined the military, high school sweetheart and the whole thing, got out of the military after 4 years, went to college, went to law school, and decided to be a banker. 25 years as a business banker, helped a lot of entrepreneurs and financed a lot of great projects and stuff like that. But I like getting outside. I love nature. I love the environment, that type of thing. And I started getting into climate. Not that I was aligning with Al Gore, but he when he talked about his inconvenient truth, that sent me down a path. And ultimately I left banking to be a climate risk management and sustainability consultant. So why did I write a book? Okay. Well, as I was going along, and again, love our country, first, second generation American. So my mother raised me to love our country because she knows what the difference is.
Yes.
Right. I was chasing after the American dream. And man, I was doing it hard and I was getting it. And so here I was probably, about 2005-ish, I had the big house, I had the nice family, I had the toys, I had the money in the bank. And all of a sudden I found it to be empty. Yeah, I didn't find any sense of purpose in it beyond getting the next deal, the next deal, the next deal, the hamster wheel, right? And so what that did was it made me think about, okay, well, what's wrong here? I've done everything I was supposed to have done. Why aren't I, Eddie Murphy on vacation? That's a joke from a movie, basically, where he talks about, we don't have to get into that. But the bottom line is, why aren't I happy, right? And so it took me like 10 years. I didn't take out the garbage and abandon everyone. I just kept working to figure out what was going on inside me. And that's when I decided to write this book. Because of what I had learned, basically, is a lot of the stuff that we are told, whether it's the virtues that we were raised by, or the narratives that explain ourselves and each other and the world around us, a lot of those things aren't true. And the way you know they're not true is because based on our actual lived experience, the lived experience tells you they're not true. But here's the problem. We're convinced of that stuff out of the crib. So if I say to you that the notion of independence is a self-defeating lie, you would think that Putin must be my best friend. right. But independence is a self-defeating lie when you use that as a measuring stick of success. Why? Because literally nothing in nature lives independently. Nothing, including all of us, right? And so why is that important? Well, because it's these type of narratives and virtues that we never reconsider that has us we find ourselves on the hamster wheel, we find ourselves making our money, we find ourselves doing all the things like I did and not getting anywhere. We've been chasing our tail all this time. And you can't get that right unto the things that you believe and the things that drive the choices you make align with the actual wisdom of your lived experience, right? And so I had to get that organized. And once I started realizing that, I started writing these commentaries. And so the original publishing of the book back in December 2022 by Atmosphere Press was much more about spirituality and personal growth and personal philosophy and how to find fulfillment. And then the 2024 presidential election came. And everything that I was talking about in the book was just exaggerated in the narratives that decided this election. So I decided to write an extra chapter, another 21 commentaries called America at the Crossroads, right? And to really get into how these false narratives and false virtues, right, are actually destroying the country and destroying us, right? And so now I'm here talking to you guys as I promote the book. So that's the long and short of it.
Awesome. Where
So
can people find your book?
It's the good news is it's virtually everywhere you can get books online. Amazon. You can first and foremost, it comes in hardcover, comes in paperback, it comes in an ebook, the Kindle ebook, and it also is in the audiobook version with the narrator is this wonderful comedian and actress out of LA called Carolyn Jania. And so you can get it on iTunes, the audiobook. You can get it on Audible. You can get the hardcover and paperback and the other versions on Amazon, on just about every major, in Target, Walmart. Just have to go online to get it. But you can get it. You can also catch all these links at my website, www.onwardatlast.com.
That's great. Hey, let me say something. I don't think the times we're living in now are destroying us at all. I think these are the greatest times ever. We have never seen so much engagement in politics as we've seen in the last few years. So,
You coming over
there's
the
That's
dark
an
side, Trippi?
interesting view.
Coach Trippi, I'm going to have to push back on you so hard, man.
I think
hope
that's
this,
a pretty mixed view. I
well,
I don't disagree. People are engaged, but are they engaged in are they engaged in objective conversation, or are they engaged in affirmation of opinion? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
God, I don't know how to word this. This is crazy. Kevin, you can word it better, but
no, I hear you, Derek.
are we engaged in blinders and then swinging punches, or are we engaged in listening and forming critical opinions
well,
based
political.
on based on our full, roundabout perspective of everything? Sure, we're engaged, but are we really listening? Are we just polarized, and are we just speaking at each other? And we're speaking at each other, and we're affirming what we believe through a positive Google search, as opposed to a disapproval Google search to say,
Right.
hey, how can I disprove what I believe? Because if I'm going to really firmly and factually believe what I believe, then I got to know how to disprove it.
Or
And if
are
I
we
can't disprove
engaged?
it, then there's something to talk about and engage with someone, as opposed to speak at you my opinion, Trippy. When we just go back and forth on our rageaholic text banters, which I don't do, you two can do that very well. I come back to them maybe an hour later, and I look at like 79 new messages, and I just laugh through this whole stream, and I'm like, what did we accomplish? Or
No,
what
I
did
don't
we
know that
have in
we.
I
common?
do that to get his blood pressure up. That's the only reason I do that.
Well, yeah,
Okay,
it
well,
does get my
that's
blood.
what we
Half the
accomplished.
time I
It's
probably agreed with
entertainment.
him. Half the time I probably agreed with him in the beginning, and then I'm just like, you know what? It's time to push him over the edge.
No, I think it's great. I personally think it's great. There was a time when, and it's something you pointed out, Derek, but you said it in a way that was different than I'm going to say it, about the amount of voters. And you said, I mean, 10 million. You said, I think you were alluding to 10 million of them had to be illegal voters. And I said, no, there's a lot of engagement now. There's a lot of people voting now. There's more
I
people
I,
voting via.
I disagree.
Well, that's
So I
part of the
agree with
show.
you that there's more people voting. I don't agree with you that we pooped out. And it's not 10 million, okay? I don't believe we pooped out 6 million votes.
I mean, I believe that voting by mail has brought out a lot of voters. I always said, when you see an elderly person with a walker on a voting line, that's a Republican. And generally, Democrats won't go to that much effort. But then
My
came
90-year-old mother still
mail by,
works at the voting booths.
huh?
My 90-year-old mother still works at the voting booths.
Right, but is your 90-year-old mom a Republican?
What do you think?
So Kevin, tell
Yeah.
us what you mean. Okay, so you kind of summarized your upbringing and where you got to where you are, and I am you're what do you call, like a unicorn? You're confusing me, but in a curiosity way, about you have such a kind of a conservative professional background, and yet you have kind of a really educated and outspoken philosophy.
Right?
And I'm trying to really grasp, what have you discovered about society and politics and government and independence that doesn't seem right, that doesn't seem to be what the narrative we were given throughout
Yeah.
this whole
Well,
history. Let's talk about, can we uncover that, right? Because
let's
I haven't
unpack
read your
that.
book yet, but I want you to unpack it here so we can kind of get a little
And it's
teaser.
also confusing because he's all those things you're saying, and then he lives on the left coast.
Then
He does.
Yeah. Oh, let me throw more curveballs in there. You're talking about a guy who voted for Walter Mondale while serving for Ronald Reagan when I was a member of NATO in 1984.
Were you
Gosh,
like
Mondale,
one of 3 people who voted for him?
I mean, I go way back with the Democratic Party, right? And yet I'm just saying all this stuff. This is transparency that for the first time in my life. And I wouldn't have believed this a year ago. I would have fought someone in a bare knuckle brawl, right? If to say that this wasn't true, but I voted for Trump this time, right? But it wasn't like an emotional thing. So yeah, I love the question, Derek. Here's the thing.
Let me preclude. Here's what I assume about you. And this is what I like about you. And I try to pick out something I like about someone because there's good in everybody or agreeance in everything. I think you're a disruptor holic. I think you are and by the way, I am too, right?
So you think I'm just being counterintuitive? I'm just
No.
I think 3 of us in this room are disruptors.
I think you have uncovered that disruption is a key factor from now going back to what you've discovered, status quo versus, for lack of a better term, blowing the system into pieces, compartmentalizing it, and keeping what works and getting rid of what doesn't. That's my assumption about you. Steer me right or wrong.
Hey, Derek, I appreciate it. If we can connect the thread from your first question in terms of the quality of the conversation, the national conversation we're having, and whether we're actually talking to each other or not, or talking past each other or not, and this question in terms of what have I seen in my journey in terms of about this narrative that is not true and what have you. When you described me, you described a multifaceted person. That's all of us. That's all of us. So the first problem with our national conversation, our social discourse, is that we've let the vitriol get to the point where we have reduced each other down to the stupidest things we've ever done. So if we talk about RFK Jr., we talk about some dead bear being dragged into the woods, dragged into Central Park, or his brain getting eaten, or some nonsense that he did not say relating to being an anti-vaxxer or whatever. We ignore 40 years of the most impactful environmental litigation, or 20 years of of very impactful litigation against big pharma and big ag for nutritional health in the United States.
Right.
Because we've reduced them down to a cartoon character. And we do that to everyone. Right. And so the problem is that if the person you're talking to who just doesn't happen to agree with you has been reduced down to the dumbest things that they've ever done, then of course there's nothing that they have to offer. This is no longer going to be so most of our conversation has been us talking right past each other. Us yelling right past each other because the Democrats made the Republicans out to be neophytes or whatever, and the Republicans make the Democrats now out to be all transgender.
It's like if we saw a green stop sign, we would ignore it because it's green.
No, wait a minute. He just pointed to me. I don't have an issue with transgender. I don't say we should.
He's generalizing.
That's what
No, Zach was like pointing to me. So I'm clarifying. I know he's generalizing, but Zach was like, here's my point.
Trippi,
Zach, do we have coming out? Do we need to come out here?
He totally missed what I was doing. I was making fun of him.
Yeah. If Democrats say we need when you talk about DEI, for example, I don't say DEI needs to be in place as a policy. I see it needs to be all I've ever said is when we think about one of the most effective militaries in the world, Israel has an openly gay policy. So now you've got a president and a secretary of defense who says the biggest problem in the military.
Where did you hear that?
Israel is an openly gay policy. I've heard it. It's a fact.
I have 2 friends from Israel who will dispute that till you die.
Okay, we can go on. We can go on documentation,
just like all the other ones over there.
No, I'll go on. I'll Google right now. Israel has an openly gay policy. They have no issue with gays.
So it doesn't matter what Google says.
Well, it doesn't matter what your two friends says because they're not even here.
They're in it. They were in the military in Israel.
Okay,
and
they're
here
not
now.
here, and I'm going
They
on Google,
are.
which is a research engine.
I'm just
So
telling you.
as Kevin was making a fantastic point that's happening right now, as we speak past each other, it's like we ignore the humanity in someone based on their opinion. Right. Like I said, Trippy, right now to Zach, you're a green stop sign, so he's running all over you. I'm still gonna stop because you're a stop sign. I'm gonna think you're a little queer for lack of better terminology, strange.
So you think
But
we're going to fix the military by removing? Let me
I
ask.
don't
Let
care
me
about
ask
the
Kevin. Are
military.
we
I
going
don't
to?
care about the military
I
right
care about
now
it because
at
this
this moment.
president is affecting policy on it,
No, he's
and that's
not.
what he is.
He's cleaning it up. He's saving
He's cleaning
money.
it up of what? Of gay DEI.
No, he's not kicked anyone out for being gay.
He's
or
taking the
Immediately after a
blanket off.
plane
Taking away the
crashed,
pol- the-
immediately after a plane crashed, he came out in public and said the reason the plane crashed is because of DEI hires, with no basis to make that statement. That is ignorant.
The
That
female
is an
who was
issue.
flying the Black Hawk.
He didn't know either.
Wow, she had no business flying that Black Hawk.
Okay, she had no business. Why?
Let me
I
get.
think she only had like
let me get retired.
175 flying
let me get
hours or
retired.
But
something.
his
Lieutenant-
statement
pretty
was
crazy.
Trippy.
DEI was the issue.
Let me get Jonathan back on, and he'll tell you exactly why. Because Jonathan was lieutenant colonel who flew Hawk all the time, 100%, and he already told me why.
Why did he tell you? Why?
If I could,
Because we
just-
talked about it.
Let Kevin
If I-
in
no, I
now.
can do
what
an
did he tell you
interception.
is why?
Go ahead,
Okay,
Kevin.
see, this is what Trump does. First and foremost, okay.
Oh, let me
He said-
explain something real quick before you go into that.
Yeah.
Trump could walk on water, heal the sick, raise the
But he
dead.
hasn't.
Trippy,
But he
shut up for a
hasn't.
second. Just shush. Trippy hates him so much that he could
I
walk
don't
on
hate
water, raise
him.
the dead, cure cancer, stop all world violence, and bring everybody to sing Kumbaya. And Trippy would say, "See, he's making him sing some foreign song. It's something wrong."
That's not true at all.
It's
I've been
100%
extremely.
true.
That's
He's
not true
everything
at
he's done
all.
since day one has been fantastic.
So maybe Kevin's
What
point is,
what
in
has been
fairness, we could
fantastic?
probably
Name
say the
one
same
thing from
about.
day one.
In
So,
Kevin's
Kevin,
point,
go
we
ahead
could
and-
probably say the same about
Okay.
Biden, right?
So, oh my gosh, don't get me started. Okay, but
And I could,
as it
I'm going to
relates
be honest, I probably could say like every, right? Just because at this point it's so it was so out of control. It was so out of body what was happening to where it's like, man, I used to just think you were going to come into office and not do anything and life would just go on and that would be good. And someone's got you by the strings, man, and I don't like that. And now I don't know who you are, but I digress. Go for it, Kevin.
well, can we do an FBI profile on Trump real quick? Just distill it down to who's Trump. See, because I mean, I grew up with the Trump family, all the litigation back in the 80s, in terms of being sued for discrimination in his housing projects, all this. So I go way back for Trump, and I have a lot of reasons not to like him, and I voted for him nonetheless. Okay. Trump is a brand looking for a product. That's all he is. Ever since he started in real estate, he stopped in the 90s and became the Trump brand, a luxury brand, and start putting his name on stuff. It's part okay. So that's all Trump has perfected, selling himself as some sort of symbol of success, for better or for worse. So think of him like GM. Okay. When he entered politics, right, he had to have a product. So Steve Bannon provided that product in 2016. And Steve Bannon brought in at that point the neocons, right? Okay, but the neocons, like the neoliberals, are into this forever war stuff, are into economics. They're into making Eisenhower's warning about the military-industrial complex a reality. Right? And so by the end of his first term in office, Trump didn't like that because he's for whatever reason, maybe he feels like war gets in the way of doing actual business. He wants to do deals. He wants to do business, right? Okay, so he's not really on that war footing, where that's how we're going to make our money, by selling everyone weapons. Okay, so he runs he gets rid of most of the neocons by the end in 2020, but he doesn't have a brand guy, and he went on the marketing alone. MAGA by itself wasn't quite enough to get it done in 2020. We can talk about whether the Democrats stuffed, found 10 million extra votes. There was a spike. And that's just statistically factually true.
But tell us what happened in 2020 between 2016 to now with the unification of the neocon mentality with the neoliberal as an establishment versus anti-establishment, and how we got to all of a sudden this unity this time around, Kevin.
Well, the thing about it is that
Inflation.
no. This, look,
That's
back
what
in the
sunk
day,
Biden.
Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan back in the 80s used to go in front of the cameras and eviscerate each other, and then they would go in the back and bust out the good scotch in the Oval Office.
Right.
Okay, so let's be clear.
Sounds like Obama
right?
and Trump.
The establishment. Look, Cheney, W. Bush, Mitt Romney, Lynn Cheney, Clinton, Obama, Biden, they're all in the same category.
Yeah.
As long as they eviscerate each other in front of the cameras and stuff like that. What happened this time is one of the anti-establishment people got through. Remember, they were unifying to fight Bernie. In both 2016 and 2020, the signal was coming across that they will unify if he gets the Democratic nomination, and the Democrats made sure he didn't get it.
So
right?
who slipped through the cracks this time, Kevin? Was it a man by RFK Jr.?
No. Okay, here's the thing about Trump, and this is the psychology of Trump, and people, and it's you agree when I say it, right? Trump has never been accepted by the billionaire class, by the real estate folks back in New York, and certainly by the billionaires now. No, he has a chip on his shoulder. He has all the pedigree. He's supposed to be a part of the club, and they pat him on the head and treat him like he's an idiot and stuff like that. And the tipping point was at the Washington Correspondents' Dinner, back in 2015.
Oh, when he shredded
Obama
everybody?
Eviscerated. I mean, I laughed my ass off. I was on the ground. How Obama was priceless, embarrassed him, trivialized everything he stood for and stuff like that. But see, the psyche of Donald Trump was that, okay, I'm done. I will never be accepted by the establishment. Now it's war. And I believe he committed right there, sitting with the whole press corps laughing at him, right? To say, I'm going to prove these MFs that I'm taking over. And when I take over, this establishment is going down. Right. Now, he made the run. He got elected, but he didn't know where the bathroom was. He had a lot to figure out. They had him chasing his tail over Russiagate and all this other bullshit. But halfway through, then he gets hit with COVID. So he didn't know how to do it. But the thing is, he's not an idiot, and he went to school. And while Biden was destroying the world, and we can get into that, he really educated himself on, when I do this the next time, right? We're gonna have the transition team preset. We're gonna have our people hit the ground running. We're gonna have waves of executive orders, and this is exactly what we've seen these 2 weeks. So he is anti-establishment. He has picked up the mantle that Bernie Sanders had, right? Yes, he's done it within the context of the Republican Party.
So are you saying that the billionaire, the establishment class, has literally carried Trump from the Woolman Rink to the Wendy Williams show to the White House to the West Wing War Room in the course of, boy, has it been 30 years? Yeah.
I could say he got born as a product of the patriarchy. He got born with the platinum spoon in his mouth and stuff like that. But he's got the Wharton Business School pedigree.
He was only good for what they told him. You stay in your place.
Exactly.
And so he developed this complex.
Absolutely. And it's psychology, but he has a huge chip on his shoulder. And so this is what motivates him to crush the establishment. You think he's of the establishment, but they never accepted him. And the ultimate insult, and I'm just being candid here, there is real truth with the fact that the Trumps had issues with race back in their the idea that a biracial person, Obama, was the final straw, that he crushed him, right, in front of the world, to say trivialized his whole life work, right? Okay, that was it for Trump, right? Okay, but what he did different this time, right? And this is my contention, MAGA doesn't do it alone. A brand dies if you don't come up with a better product. Is look at how he ran his campaign before the first assassination attempt, and then since the assassination attempt. Now, okay, I don't know if we got any veterans here. But or anyone who knows, who's familiar with firing a semi-automatic weapon. But I can tell you this much: when you are firing from the prone position with a tripod from 130 yards with a clear shot, that is no different than me with a 9mm sitting across the dinner table pointing at you, right? Absolutely. Trump, that shot gets taken 1,000 times. Trump is dead 1,000 times, like the guy behind him. So happens as that person who had the stock of the weapon in his shoulder, he was stable. It wasn't bouncing. It was a clean, clear, stable shot. When he was slowly pressing
even
that
with
trigger,
iron sights.
Yeah, right. That's right. But when he was slowly pressing that trigger, so happens Trump started looking to his right, because there was a wall worth of data that he was going to point to. Just that the random timing got his head turned this way, and because the shot was coming from that way, it hit his ear instead of his dome. Okay. But so I'm not going to say he found Jesus, but 3 hours later, he called RFK Jr. What the media didn't cover is Trump brought in centrist Democrats, right? He brought in RFK Jr. He brought in Tulsi Gabbard. He brought in Elon Musk. Those are centrist Democrats, right? I mean, Vivek was around for a minute and stuff like that. They created Make America Healthy Again, and the principles involved in that was right stuff that you don't normally hear from the right. We're talking about the way they're going to make America healthy again is to break corporate capture by big ag and big pharma of the food and regulatory agencies in the federal government. Right. That sounds like something the Democrats would do, right. But okay, that's the first thing. And so that, okay, then to end the forever wars. You want to know why Dick Cheney is endorsing Kamala Harris to end the forever wars, right? Again, this is coming from the Republicans, right?
You're taking bread out of his pocket.
Oh, this is what I'm saying, right? Right. Because this is how wealth has looted the Treasury over the last 30 years. You take a look at the history of U.S. debt since 1980 to 2025. I mean, we had $1 trillion. We had $900 billion in debt in 1980, right? I mean, Reagan tripled it, and then it steadily grew. But by 2000, when W took over, it was only $6 trillion, right? By the time he was done, it was 18 trillion, right? Well, now we have 36 trillion. Well, you know what? That's all. Most of that is war. Most of that is military spending, right? And all that military industrial complex stuff is owned by BlackRock. It's owned by very few corporations, right? So, and so while we got stuck with the bill, you have the greatest billionaire class ever, right? Okay, so
and the debt is 10 times because of inflation. I'm putting this into perspective. Inflation from 1980 till now is about 3.6, so 360%. And we've got 37. We had about 1. So we've 10x'd our debt. Inflation adjusted.
Can I ask this question real quick? How is Trump going to end the forever wars?
Okay. And so here's the plan. You have to answer that question, you have to understand how we've done it. Okay. So you see the controversy over USAID?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the linchpin, fellas. Welcome to the linchpin. USAID was established as an agency under the Kennedy administration in 62, right? And 61. And this was idealism. This was like the Peace Corps was established at the same time. And the purpose of USAID was to fund various types of educational pro-democracy, provide food and support and sanitary services to countries that didn't have these services in order to win hearts and minds and stuff like that in all these countries. Yeah, that nice cover story. Okay. But what it actually started getting used for is to funnel Black ops through USAID to US funded NGOs, non-governmental organizations, in countries all around the world to destabilize those governments, so that when the conflicts occur, we can provide weapons on both sides. This is what they've been doing. So when they tell you
Sounds
the
like a
budget,
drug dealer's car wash.
it's classic. It's gangster. I mean, Cornel West is not wrong to talk about these people like gangsters. They are it's gangster.
Gangsters.
Okay, so how does he end the forever wars? And we're going to tie Tulsi Gabbard to it, because that line of argument came from Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard got run out of the Democratic Party as a decorated combat veteran, right? Because just like John
They tried
Kerry
to
in
put her on the
2004,
no-fly zone.
huh?
They tried to
I'm
put her
sorry?
in the no-fly zone.
Yeah, amongst other things, because she was anti-war. She was done with it. She had seen anyone who's had the awful honor of fighting in one of these wars for nothing. See, that's the worst part. As a veteran, that is the worst part. You agree to sacrifice yourself to kill or be killed, to protect your way of life, to protect people who can't protect themselves. That's an honorable thing.
Right.
To put two in the temple to some kid who's got a bomb wrapped around him, right? When you're only doing it to make Big Daddy Warbucks on the top of the hill even richer. That's the reason. National security is not really at stake. But how do you wake up? How do you sleep at night when that's why you did what you did? You didn't know you did it that reason, but you find out pretty soon. This is why our soldiers are killing themselves at the highest rate in U.S. history right now. It's because we learned nothing from Vietnam. But my point being is, how you end the forever war is you bring in Tulsi Gabbard, and you make a director of national intelligence who is intent on gutting the intelligence agency's use of USAID to fund counterinsurgencies around the world.
Correct.
All you guys got to do is check any range of the international geopolitical analysts. There's a bunch of them, very credible. They're all doing a standing ovation of Trump trying to dismantle USAID. And to see Americans protesting that as if we're still talking about Kennedy's USAID and not the organization. Literally, we used USAID to finance the violent overthrow of the democratically elected government of Ukraine in 2014. You want to know why we're at war now?
But hang on, I just want to say one thing. When we talk about Trump ending the forever wars, now this is fact. 1 day ago, the Trump administration briefly paused U.S. weapon shipments to Ukraine, but then quickly resumed deliveries. Now here's a president. I'm not knocking him. I'm not praising.
Where did you get that info from?
It's right here. It's right here.
You're looking at
where is right here.
News.
News what? What news? Who?
I don't know, and it doesn't matter. Where
Yeah,
are
it
you gonna
does,
tell me it
because it
didn't
could be
happen? It's
total
fact.
crap.
It's
could be
it's
total
not
crap.
total crap.
How is it total fact?
Because we know the shipments are going out back. They've resumed.
You do. You saw them. You were there.
You're going to argue that point every time I say something,
Every
and the
time,
fact of
because
the matter
he's in
is,
talks with Putin right now for ending everything.
Huh?
But anyway,
here's Coach Trippi, I hear you, man. I hear you. This
it's
is what
resumed. I can't
one
argue
of the things
point.
one of the things that I loved about the USAID thing today, when they were going through all the different what it's spending money on and where the money is, but nobody can find out where the money is because it's getting laundered, right?
It is getting laundered. Yes.
I love what Elon said. He said those who are arguing the loudest need to be the first investigated. And who was standing right there on the pulpit arguing the loudest? The usual gang.
The usual gang. That's right.
I'm not arguing the point.
Yes.
I'm not arguing the point that war is a racket.
And we're not talking about the war. We're talking about USAID. Schiff and
USAID is hence war. Funded
what?
war. USAID is going to war. We just brought that point across.
No. USAID is paying for transgender operas in frickin' New Zealand.
Okay, at $7
amongst
million.
other things, yes.
Amongst
other
things.
Sorry, Ireland. It's my bad.
See, but Zach,
Zach,
that is the reportable budget. That is the reportable budget that they're paying for the transgender stuff.
Insane amount of money.
Which is insane. Okay, the non-reportable budget.
Happening.
The non-reportable budget is the reason why the Department of Defense can't pass an audit.
Right.
There are trillions of dollars unaccountable over there. Guess what? Yeah, that's part of the black ops operation that intelligence runs. that's beyond anyone's budgetary control, that
Right.
gets funneled through USAID, that
Right.
pays for all these foreign wars. And we've been doing it for decades. There's tons of evidence of this. So the long game in ending the forever wars is to dismantle the mechanism that has kept us at war ever since the Soviet Union stood down in 1991, right? The mechanism has been to funnel Black Ops funds through USAID to local NGOs so that they can foment counterinsurgency that destabilizes the government and creates the conflict that we then turn around and sell weapons to. That is the methodology. That's his approach. His teammate.
If it's his approach, when you're talking about the most definitive 10 days we've seen in a long time, where literally things like Meals on Wheels has come to a screeching halt because funding stopped. But when I point out that USAID was paused briefly and then resumed immediately, we argue the point that how do we know this? But we praise him on the notion that he's doing this, but according to his actions, he's not. And then I ask, why is the adulation there when in fact it's smoke and mirrors? When in fact it's a sales pitch?
The thing is, we're not going to.
Because you're looking at the micro and we're looking at the macro. We're looking at the cutting of the
micro
money.
is there. The president can immediately stop weapons to Ukraine. He has that option. And I've also pointed out,
but until Putin runs out of money, why would he?
He doesn't. And then he actually said, in his own words, we know this for a fact, we'll give you the weapons if you commit precious earth metals to us. Well, you know what? Here's the simple fact. He wants the weapons to continue to be sold to Ukraine because you know what? They would commit more precious metals to us if we said you can join NATO, which would stop the war that same day. But he's not offering membership to NATO. He's offering more weapons for those precious metals. So again, I'm not arguing with anybody. I'm just saying when you literally revere somebody that's bold-faced lying to you, and then you hear people say, look at this approach, it's so effective, and in fact, it's extremely ineffective because even all the executive orders are first have been paused for further review by the judicial system, and then ultimately will be continued or dismantled by the judicial system. And when you look at his first term, every one of his executive orders were overturned other than two. The two were moving military money to continue building the wall, which was posed as a security issue, and the other was the travel ban. But the fact of the matter is his track record on executive orders is awful. And that's all he's done in the first 10 days.
Coach Trippi, let me just give you, I want to ask you a question to give you an analogy of why I think this is not going to be helpful doing the micro like you're doing right here. And this is why. Do you ever
I don't want to be helpful. I want to be realistic.
No,
you're missing the entire point.
We want to have
focusing
clarity
on the micro,
you're
but not the
building the
macro
point
strategy.
up to make Trump look like a god, and he's not an effective leader at the moment.
Not really.
Again, I'm not characterizing. I wasn't characterizing. I will say exactly what I said in terms of what he's doing. But here, why you have to look at the broader strokes and the longer view as opposed to the micro. What did he say today? What did he do today? Do you invest? Do you have a stock market a stock portfolio or something like that? Any investor will tell you, any smart investor will tell you, yeah, you pick your good stocks, whatever, and then you leave it alone. If you watch them every day, you're going to have a heart attack by 3 o'clock because it's going to do this thing. It's going to do this thing. And you're going to say, oh my God, I just, before lunch, I just lost $10,000. And after lunch, I just gained $12,000. And then, no, you have, in other words, okay. So yes, if you isolate Trump on everything he says, your head explodes. We can't judge him by what he says. We have to judge him by what he does in terms of the things that actually have effect. Right?
But can we judge him by what he doesn't do, or is that
what he doesn't, or what he doesn't do? Right?
Because generally speaking, that's off the table. When you're talking about the sycophants, what he doesn't do is off the table.
No, but here's the thing. Okay.
Yes, he hasn't done a thing yet.
Sorry, he doesn't sleep.
He does sleep. As a matter of fact, during his first term, they were talking about him watching TV all day. No,
hasn't
not
done
a
a thing
thing.
yet.
Not
Oh,
a thing.
okay.
That's
Okay.
unbelievable.
Every executive order has
Oh
been
my
wrong.
gosh.
Did he?
Not a
Even
thing.
before he took,
He's a
even before he
failure
took,
at every step.
Coach Trippi,
Okay.
even before he took office,
That's why one's
he
an
sent
idiot.
his man, his right hand man from New York to browbeat Bibi into signing the ceasefire
It's
that
not.
Biden
There's
didn't
no.
have. That
That
Biden didn't
Biden
have
was
the
working
nads
on the
to close it.
agreement. Biden was
Wait
working
a
on the
minute, it's the
agreement long
same
before he
agreement.
came into office.
Biden
This
didn't
is
Coach
the
even
Trippi,
know
it's
same.
the
where he
same
was.
agreement
This
by
is the
Biden.
same coattail effect. We're going to talk about
No, it's
everything
not
that
coattail
happens during
effect.
it. It
It's
is.
not coattail effect.
Biden was relentlessly working on that
No,
ceasefire.
Can I-
Relentlessly? Did you? Oh, did you just
can I
say Biden and
He has a
relentlessly in the
staff.
same
He had a
sentence?
State Department
all
staff
Biden
You had a
had to
working
do.
diligently.
No,
you had a
Coach
relentless
Trippy, hold
nap
up,
game.
hold
You had a
up a second.
relentless nap game, bro.
Hold up.
You
Yeah, I
guys
know.
haven't.
We
You're-
heard.
Relentless.
No.
It's the same coattail effect that he takes
Coach
credit for
Trippy.
in everything he does.
Dude.
Well, now, see, okay, you're doing the filibuster here. The bottom line is Biden had the structure of the ceasefire done last May, right? And all he had to do is tell Bibi, get it done, do it. That's it. That was it. He refused to do it. Right? What Trump's right emissary to the representative to the Middle East did, the other New York real estate guy who was a serious billionaire, right? Is he told Bibi, I don't give a shit about the Torah or about Sabbath or whatever. We're meeting in your office to get this deal done, and he forced them to do it.
So can I tell you?
That's why the deal got done. So
Hang
that's
on,
the
let me
first
tell
thing.
you.
He got the ceasefire.
Give me 1 second.
Now I understand. Yeah, just because he said yesterday or today or whatever about the United States occupying Gaza, he's given Bibi cover. He's given Bibi. He's trying
In
to
a
give him a
stunning
lifeline.
proposal, Donald Trump on Tuesday said the U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip.
Yes.
This is not a populist movement. We're going to take over the Gaza Strip. We're going to level it, and we're going to build a beautiful city there at the expense of who?
Coach Trippi, if he does that, first and foremost, if he does that, I will. I don't know. I will. I will give you a dare that I will do if he does that.
No, that's not necessary because we're really not arguing.
I guess I want you to understand.
When you're saying separate what he says from what he does,
how often are you
the president of the United States?
Okay, he said, finish them. But the first thing, he's not even president. He got the Israelis to cease fire, right?
So
okay,
why is he now today proposing flattening the Gaza Strip, owning it?
If he does it, then believe it. Just because he says it doesn't mean he's going to do it. That's what I'm saying. He's giving Bibi cover for his domestic audience because Israel has lost the conflict with Hamas.
So now our president's job is to give foreign leaders cover.
Whether we agree with this is you watching the stock every minute, every gyration. Yes, he says these things just like he told Putin that he used all the wrong numbers for the casualty numbers in Ukraine, right? And they're like, is he ignorant? Is he stupid? No, this is his 12-dimensional chess. That's why you cannot judge Trump by what he says. If you do, it will simply drive you crazy. Look, let's see what he actually does, because the difference about that statement is he hasn't done anything like that yet. He hasn't.
Without interrupting, tell me when I can talk.
Oh no!
Go ahead. I don't.
Coach Trippi, what did I do? Okay, Zach, are we doing a word count on how many words every person is saying here? Because I got to tell you, I can't believe.
Okay, let me tell you. As a candidate, this is what he said. I know nothing about Project 2025. I know nothing about Schedule F. When he hit the Oval Office, there was so much prepared. It is litigation at its best, ready to hit his desk and sign into law. That was a pre-planned event. So he lied. Yes. He said something. Don't be concerned with what he says because he's just saying it. But then he does.
A lot of what he's saying is lying. A lot of what he's saying is
and a lot of what he's saying is getting done. So how do I know he's not going to suddenly send our guys in to flatten the Gaza Strip?
I continue to contend. Okay, if what he does is appoint RFK as the head of HHS, that's something he did, right? And he's fighting for it. Putting Tulsi Gabbard in charge of DNI, that's something he did. That's just something he said. right? He said a lot of crazy. Rogan said, I mean, that was the great interview with Rogan and Trump and stuff like that. And Trump said, I don't understand why Coach Trippi always trips out every time I say something. Actually, he was talking about the media. Why does the media always, go crazy every time I say something? And Rogan didn't skip a beat. He leaned forward in his chair and he says, because you always say crazy shit. Yes. And Trump, this is the president of the United States. Trump did not get defended. How dare you say I say crazy shit? No, he like a New Yorker. He said, yeah, well, yeah, of course he says crazy. He does that on purpose. He is a bumper sticker. He is a billboard. He is a viral post. Everything out of his mouth. You cannot follow that. You have to look at the actions he's actually taking that actually have effect, right? That he's executing, that he's trying to make happen, right? As soon as he signs the executive order to declare, the Gulf of America, okay, that's an action that he's actually doing. The fact that he talks about that, the fact that he talks about Greenland, the fact that he talks about the 51st state in Canada and stuff like that is what he does. Do not react to that. Set that aside.
He's our president.
No.
He can't say things as a joke.
This is still Trump.
You're saying all these things are jokes.
Do you truthfully think that he's going to turn the Gaza Strip into a tourist attraction?
I truly think a president should not say that.
Well, okay.
Well, you're not the president.
He is an unconventional pencil. I agree.
I care because
I don't think the president should sniff little children and have a cocaine addicted son.
And you made that point. Did I ever say it's okay? Did I ever say it's okay?
Did you vote for him?
I voted for Kamala Harris.
Well,
so let's talk about that.
He got ousted and they brought her in a coup. So that's the only reason you voted for her, because you would have.
Okay, and I agree.
Right, and you would have voted for him.
But no matter what I say, no one can agree with me that the president shouldn't make.
That's
these
because
bold
you're
statements.
left and we're right. How can we agree unless we meet?
I'm not left. I'm a
middle.
I am. First of all, I'm 100% capitalist. Second of all, I'm far from left. I don't believe my biggest concern.
I know that always confuses me because you're a capitalist and you're an NRA supporter, but you support
100% NRA supporter. 100%
support Harris and Biden, who want to take our guns away and
what they say they're not going to do.
How do you know?
How do you know Trump's not going to flatten the Gaza Strip?
Do you think he was actually going to make Canada the 51st state? But the whole left went crazy. Oh my gosh!
I never went crazy.
And that's what he does it for.
I said, hang on.
I do believe that he likes to do that for.
He likes to do it. He
makes you think. And why he realized that makes you think the two signature items of Canada is universal health care and open borders. And this is a man saying we want this to be our 51st state. The guy who's adamantly opposed to universal health care and
well, it gets rid of the open borders debate because we're one country now. So now we can support that.
So let me ask you a question, Trippi.
That's perfect.
Here's a quick one.
Now we just have one left.
All right. So, and I'm not trying to compare myself to the president by any means. When I was the director of foods for a theme park here in Orlando, okay, I used to have reps coming in, and if they didn't meet my budget needs, my price point I wanted, I used to tell you, I'm going to fire you down a flight of stairs. Do you think I was actually going to throw somebody down a flight of stairs, or was I just saying it for shock value?
So let me give you an example of the president's verbal power. When Richard Nixon was president, he commented on the Manson case. Okay. And there was literal discussion of calling a mistrial because the president's influence is enormous. The judge said, no, we will not call a mistrial, but but there was concern of it because the president has an incredible amount of insight, his incredible amount of intelligence afforded.
The problem is right now the media has the big hand on the throats and brains of everybody, and so they can skew whatever they want the people to believe in here. They make crap up every single day.
There was a point in time.
So it didn't matter. The president could have said, we're going to put a new Disney World in Buc-ee's in Palestine. And they would have been like, they're going to murder all the children and rape and pillage and kill everybody. That's what the president said.
I'm not saying that.
You're believing it? Do you think the president is really going to go over to Palestine and clear everybody out?
I'm believing the verbatim statement I'm reading about Gaza, and I'm saying there's reason to be
concerned.
Not
do that.
And if you're saying I shouldn't do it,
who wrote the state?
Why are we acting like Gaza is some desirable place.
I don't know.
Like,
You'd
no,
have to ask your president.
Yeah,
I would,
well,
if Gaza Strip turned into a
He's
new Disney World,
doesn't believe
I
it.
would
He
go
literally
there.
said today it's nothing but a pile of rubble. If you
And
watched
he's
him
going to
talk today.
level it and build a
It
beautiful
is
community.
leveled already.
According
It
to him,
already
he still
is.
needs leveling. It
And
needs
he
leveling.
said he was going to bring everybody and resettlement them.
There's
He was
nothing
going to give them new
left.
places
Sure.
to live.
So, okay,
They
so
don't
do you
have
believe
anywhere to
that?
live.
Okay, hang on. Do you believe
that would be
Because I'm going
nice
to
of
point
him.
out.
That'd be pretty humane.
So
of
let
him,
me go.
wouldn't you think?
Let me bring back a point in history
Oh.
and time. Okay,
Oh my goodness
Israel
gracious.
invaded Beirut,
Right.
and they had
Yes.
nowhere to relocate the PLO. It took months of negotiation, and every country in the Arab world had to take in some of the PLO.
Okay.
So when you're talking about relocating 2.1 million Palestinians outside of Gaza, the most densely populated area in the world, and putting them somewhere according to Trump's plan, it's a concern because it's idiotic.
So let me
The
ask you a
president's
question.
talking idiotic.
First of all, it is probably a very difficult thing to do, because what is the country that borders Gaza and Israel?
There's
Jordan.
Jordan, there's
Right.
Egypt.
And what did
there's-
Jordan say? Don't bring them scumbags here at
Yeah.
all.
you're
Right.
not taking
They're not
them.
allowed. Not
Okay,
in our
so
country.
how is Trump's plan going to work?
Well, he'll
'Cause
put them in the
there's
middle of the
2.1
desert.
He doesn't.
somewhere.
Look.
cares?
Let's wait and see if he actually does it. I'm telling you, we
So
cannot. We're wasting time
we're
in
at
this
the point
conversation
now where
talking about.
we're at the point now where we don't even question a president anymore because it's Trump.
No.
Did
That's
you
not.
question
That's the
what
truth. You
Biden
know
was
what?
going
The
to
thing
do or
about
how
it.
he was doing it?
Well,
No,
hey
because he
guys,
didn't do
let me.
anything.
I mean, this.
Come on, man,
Coach
give me some
Trippi,
ice
are you
cream.
defending? Are you defending how Democratic presidents
No.
talk? Because I could tell you this much. To me, Trump's saying something that he never does. Right? When it's something like this, like he's not going to do. Right? And that being a stain on the presidency is far worse than having your core theme of joy and decency. Yeah, how could you take Oprah Winfrey, and bring her out on election eve and say, "Oh, if you don't grab all your friends and neighbors and get them to the voting booth, right, you probably won't be able to vote again." Right? That but you put up that you represent joy and decency, and you put out that level of fear, right? But Trump says he is a carnival barker. He says all types of billboard stuff all the time and stuff like that. And you want to take literal, you saying that just so poisons the presidency. You know what poisons the presidency? As the adults in the room, which Biden was supposed to be the adult in the room. And he turns around and he finances, an ongoing genocide. And then he has Admiral Kirby tell the American public, in the face of South Africa's case against Israel for genocide, that the case of genocide against Israel is baseless and without merit. He said that in January 2024.
Who
right?
has been okay? Let me ask Zach this because I don't know how many shows you've watched. Who has been the biggest arguer that what Israel is doing in Gaza is genocide?
But
You
your
say it all the
president,
time.
you're trashing
My
Trump
president,
for his
if we're
lies.
calling Biden my president, I will say this: when Netanyahu asked for more 2,000-pound bombs, my president said no. And what my president and then what Netanyahu responded is, if you want this war over in Gaza, give us the weapons we need. Well, let me be clear on the weapons he was asking for, because we have 500 satellite images of craters left behind by 2,000-pound bombs. And those craters are not only meaning that there's lots of dead people, it takes years to refurbish the infrastructure from those craters. And there's 500 satellite images that we can verify. Okay, and my president said no more 2,000-pound bombs, Mr. Netanyahu, going against IPAC, the Israeli Political Action Committee, which is something the Democrats need desperately for funding. He said no to Netanyahu. And
After
then
500 of them went off.
they had them in stock, and they were delivered on the premise that they would
From
only
us.
right, and they were delivered according to the contractual agreement that they would only be used for mine clearing. They would never, according to the
But Biden
contractual
endorsed them
agreement.
using them.
He did not endorse them using them. They had them in stock, and they used them against the contractual agreement they were delivered on.
Well,
They were
when
only
when the world tried to protect the Palestinians, When the world went to the United Nations, we used our veto authority against 150 other countries 4 times under the Biden administration to allow him to do that.
Well,
To
now
allow
we've got
Israel to do that.
well, now we've got a president who's using his verbal veto power, saying we're going to disperse these 2.1 billion Palestinians to great places all around the world, and they can
If
live in
he
peace
does
and
it,
harmony. And the only thing you can tell me is don't buy it.
well, the only thing I can tell you is if you look at the history of someone that many people have called a persistent pathological liar, and yet you want to choose what statements are true, right? Tell me that. All I'm saying is don't believe what he says. Believe what he does. If you,
Okay. But here's the thing: when you talk about pathological liars, every politician is a pathological liar. So here's what you're basing this theory on. There was a mathematical equation that said most political candidates in America, keep about 5% of their promises. But we still argue the point that they didn't keep their promises. So when a president makes statements, it's worth at least scrutinizing, not just saying, hey, this is Trump. He gets a different disclaimer.
He's not your normal politician. He's a
Okay.
marketing guy. I mean, seriously, he's a marketing person.
So that makes him a good
I
person.
think Trippi, let's take this horse out back, shoot it in the head, and plow forward.
Okay.
I think we can agree on this statement, right? You in the past you have said this. This is not an accusatory claim against you, Trippi, but you have said Trump's a pathological liar. I think that's a common belief.
He just said
just
it.
stop. No, you have said it in the past,
Yes, I
right?
have, and I
You
stand by it.
generally believe that statement. So what he does and says, and now we're having this argument about what he said. And by the way, we don't always think everything he says is wise. I mean, those post-COVID press conferences were just like this. I'm just thinking this whole time, dude, he was tearing apart, not unifying, and that I was like, you're not going to get reelected. He didn't get reelected. My point being is, if you truly believe that, then why the hell do you care what he says? Why don't you just shut up and watch him for about 2 months? The guy's been working for 2 weeks. The one thing he doesn't do is sleep. I think we can all agree on that. The
I
guy
would not
never.
agree to that.
Oh my God, you just had an 80-some-year-old corpse
I
get out of
agree
the
to that.
office
in
to
the
shit his
afternoon.
pants.
I agree.
So
Dude,
you don't agree that he works probably
you could
20 hours and
you could
sleeps
ask
2
every
hours.
person around him and they would say, I cannot keep up with this guy from the 20-year-old to 70. That's all they say all day. I mean, at some point, even if you don't believe a specific person, when the consensus is consistent in a group, a subject group of people.
Okay, I agree to it.
And it's the guy. Let's say you hate everything he does. That's fine.
No,
I don't
let's say
care.
take yes for an answer. I agree.
Okay, there we go.
But
there we go.
he don't stop, bro.
Okay.
So just give him a second. Take the macro, right? The micro is, even tariffs. The micro, there's going to be turbulence, right? But the macro will be good. We all know that. And the macro,
I
give it a
don't.
year. Well, you will.
Let's talk the tariffs. Let's talk
You
the
will.
tariffs. What do you
will.
guys
It'll
think?
be fine.
What do you guys think of the tariffs?
Well, I
listen.
love the fact that he
First off,
uses
I
them
am a certified import, whatever you want to call it, harmonized tariff schedule. I used to import things for a living.
What do you think
I
of the
used to.
tariffs? What do you think of the
So
tariffs?
tariffs are harmonized into bajillion different chapters of categorized things, and typically you can't just put a blanket on things. Okay, they've all got their category, they've all got their thing, they've all got different rates designed to prevent dumping, to promote competitive global transaction, whatever. So I think in the meantime, to me, when Trump does it, it's sincerely almost the simplicity of a negotiation tactic, right? I mean, look at what's happened with Mexico and Canada so far.
No, that's the micro versus the macro, which is fine.
That's a micro. I think another micro is that if you don't have a strategy and you just chuck a blanket tariff on everything coming in from China, where we get all our crap dumped on us, without a macro strategy, it's probably not the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
But if you segment it and you put X amount like he did with China, he didn't do it just a flat 25 with them. I think he did a 10% on certain
10%,
things,
yeah.
and whatever it may be. And you
But he
have a
didn't put a flat tariff against Canada either.
and you have a strategy of taking of allowing both domestic and non-domestic foreign companies and investing money here as soon as possible. Macro wise, I think that's a very positive thing. Now it's how fast can you put that money to work, that investment to work, that capital to work, and get people making stuff here. For example, right, your Nikes cost $200. They just do, man. It's insanity. A typical labor ratio in the United States for manufacturing is anywhere from 17 to 22%. Let's just call it 20% of actual gross sale price of the product. So for a $200 pair of shoes, it's $40. So the big deal comes when you get them made in China and the kid makes $1 a month. I don't know what it is, but it's very unethical, right? We know that. We can agree on that. That cost of labor is very, very small. Maybe it's $1 per shoe, right? So you have a $39 disparity. Okay. Now you have to argue the point of the landed cost. The landed cost is the transportation from the factory to the port, through their office, on the boat, 4 weeks over the sea, into the port of LA, the tariffs put on the shoe. Whatever that landed cost is, it's probably another couple dollars per shoe. Let's just say now there's a $30 to $35 disparity. Now, if that brings that specific job to the United States for someone making $30 an hour, will that person pay a straight pass through for that shoe? I would argue long term, hell yes, right? In the short term, now you have people saying, okay, I'm worried about the cost of shit that we get from China costing more without an American substitute. So the macro is how fast can you take the capital and create a competitive substitute that also props up the economy by allowing better wage, better competition, better privatized wage scaling. And so that's where I stop with that debate because I have no clue how quickly you can do that or how long that takes. But I am totally like in favor of that for long term. Not that we shouldn't have trade partners, but you said earlier, none of us are really independent, right? I believe in interdependence.
We are.
Right.
Yep.
I don't believe in dependence or independence. I believe in interdependence. So we have
Which
partners,
is a global economy.
but we have backups. And when I did importing, I would have cheap product from Taiwan, but at the same time, I would tool up for the same product in-house. And I would give that a mixed cost. And I would run that product imported over. I would factor in about 60 to 70% of the time. But we would be tooled up and ready to go in-house at a price that was at least at cost or above to temporarily we could run that without any supply chain interruption. Okay? So there was a blended strategy to do that. So that's what I believe in.
Derek, that was a great and thoughtful breakdown of what's at stake in terms of this transition through the use of tariffs.
It
But what
was.
I want to put on top of that is why we then would do it. Because if you look at the economics over the last 40 years, okay, we did the globalization experiment, which Coach Trippi was jumping in saying, the interdependence is the global economy. Okay, who benefited from the global economy? It didn't have to go this way, but factually, the way it went was the top 1% benefited from the global economy. The Rand Corporation did a study, and they said that if the distribution of income from the GDP of the United States had matched the same distribution that we had from 1945 to 1974, if that same distribution was applied to 1975 to 2020, right, you would have, and I just want to cite the statistics, you could pay every worker in America an additional $1,100 a month for that entire period of time to make up the gap of the redistribution of income that globalization caused. And we're talking the total is $50 trillion. And the aggregate effect of this is in 2021, after 40 years of globalization, in 2021, for the first time in US history, the top 1% in the country had more wealth and income than the entire American middle class. Okay. So the problem is globalization did not work for most Americans. Right. And so how do you unwind that? Derek just explained exactly how tariffs do that. Now, the problem is, you're right, the transition period is going to be pain. That period between all you're facing is the higher prices, and yet you don't have the domestic productivity yet. But that's the signal for capital to shift. You have to have the signal for capital to shift, but it will shift, right? And all of a sudden, the American demand curve is going to start expanding because the better jobs are coming back. Why is this necessary? Why is this necessary? Not only because it didn't work for the American people, globalization, and for you globalists, shame on you. If you wanted to keep it, you had to make it work for everybody. You couldn't just take all the benefits of it, right? But fine, it didn't work. Now we have someone who wants to dismantle and unwind to go back to what? We're leaving the unipolar world, and it's going to be superpowers, the United States, China, and Russia, right? In different areas of the world. That means that we're bringing our economics within our area of influence, right? And stuff like that. So we have to shift this back, because if we don't, what's going to happen? We're going to go to war against China with Taiwan, when we can't even make our own pharmaceuticals. Are we kidding us? I mean, stop it. We cannot we don't live in that world anymore, where trade lines are going to stay open and you could chase the best quality, lowest labor wherever it happens to exist. That's why we need to bring it back. So the tariffs are a necessary transition. Otherwise,
so the Japanese have been ahead of this for 2 or 3 decades already in automotive manufacturing, which is where I come from. Japanese were the first to really understand landed cost, transportation, and I said this 2 decades ago. I said, when communication and logistics are equal worldwide, as labor and markets kind of begin to rise and equalize, which of course you have Chinese governments that subsidize and hold down. It's a different culture. But as those things equalize, everyone's going to go to a regionalization as part of their quality program and their cost program. And the Japanese are so far ahead of it that they would come here in the 80s, and they would, Honda would not only build a plant, I think there's one in Greensburg, Indiana, southern Indiana, and they would actually support tier 1 suppliers in the area too, and that would be their choice. And this would be like a 3 to 7 year selection process, right? But by the time those programs were developed and those vehicles were coming out on the production line, the majority of that supply was as local as it could be, so that for any QC checks they could go and see physically, and any price uncertainties had nothing to do with logistics or natural disasters or anything of that nature. It was all a controlled environment. So I believe we have come to the point now in globalization, with communication with the internet and efficiency of logistics, that the only remaining segregation is really development and governmental, public influence on policies and what holds those cultures down. You know what I'm saying? And of course, there's exceptions, like the African continent, right? It's not developed. There's no logistics. It's rough terrain, whatever. India, the only thing left is getting logistics in place. But as those things continue to equalize, you will see a resurgence between tariffs and improved logistics, improved communication, of regionalization of goods. And trust me, if the Japanese do it, it's a good thing. Okay, you might not like the Japanese. The Japanese might be misogynistic, racist, and crazy, underlying beliefs. But when it comes to quality production and predictability, it's the tops in the world for a reason. Why is the Toyota the best built vehicle? The Lexus is the best built vehicle. It's that same mentality, right? That everything is predictable, everything's controlled, and everything's systemic. And that will happen with a large portion of goods and services that we can support here in the United States. And the temporary pain will be some of those tariffs and some of that cheap stuff, some of the alleviation of dumping. But I mean, long term, I can't see anything but an abundance of 30 to 40 out per hour dollar per hour jobs. And right now we're left with this nuclear shell of a remote service. What the hell do we do in the United States anymore? We don't make crap. Go to any town in any state that's not in a major highway after the major highways came through. Read J.D. Vance's book, right? About the Rust Belt. Go anywhere in Florida where, these cities existed before I-75 and I-4. There's nothing there anymore. There's nothing there. There might be one little regional, local, manufacturing guy who still stays in business because there's a big company 40 miles away that they still get one program shoveled into there. But there's nothing left. It's gutted.
Well,
We don't do anything, and all we
Yeah.
have is this shell economy of service industry. Like a barista at
Financialization.
Starbucks has to make $20 an hour, and this person is, in terms of work ethic, not as a human being, as worthwhile as what used to not even get hired at McDonald's. Like there's just
Yeah.
nothing, there's no critical thought. There's just it's so disconnected, discombobulated, and we need to get back to producing here to actually bring some of that network back, bring some of that worth back, bring the middle class back, and bring our competitive and win the war with China, because the war with China is not a military war, it's an economic war.
so here, okay, and you guys made some great points, but here's the reality. The tariffs that Trump was talking about were based on drugs coming into the country.
Mm-hmm.
No, Canada and Mexico have made some sort of concession where they're gonna buffer up the border so those
Yep.
drugs don't come into the country. So you've got no tariffs anymore with those countries. He's come to an agreement. He said, let's see how they do. We're giving them a month pause. But somewhere along the way, I'm saying, I think we've got an agreement. Then you've got the idea that we're going to start doing things here, which is great. I love it. We're going to have high paying jobs. We're going to build our cars here. Here's where the global economy came from. When you think of the global economy, generally speaking, the one you really want to bet on as prevailing in the global economy is China, because it has such an enormous population. So their own internal combustion produces a lot. So the idea of the globalization was that in order for the United States to stay competitive, we needed a partner. And that partner was Western Europe. So then you go from a small country, the United States, of 300 million, combined with a fairly bigger community of Western Europe, and you get to close to maybe under, I don't know the number, but under 1 billion. And you're competitive with China at that point. The fascination with, and the problem with Europe is they're so big on entitlements. They're so bad at NATO. They don't do what they say they're going to do. They don't invest in they don't invest in their military.
Overregulated.
Well, overregulated, and they
You'll
don't
never
invest in
compete you'll never compete in a country that's underregulated when you're focused on overregulating the rest of the world while
here's
they
the thing,
slip
so
under the
then,
radar. China and India don't follow anything according to any Green Deal, any Paris Accord crap. All they do is keep dumping shit and polluting the world, and we have to overregulate. We're putting ourselves out of business, okay? I don't care who we partner with. We're putting ourselves out of business, and we're letting them get away with murder.
Meh.
so
Environmental
we're either
murder, economic
okay.
murder.
Okay, so the
That's the
environmental murder we
war.
have no
That's the
control
war.
over. We can't tell China how to run their factories, how to regulate their factories. We can't
Well,
tell
then
them.
why are we regulating anything? Because their output's 10 times ours. So what the hell does our little tiny
So
smog
then
factory
comes so now we're going
regulations
from
matter?
the world economy to
Well, you might as well,
regulation. Let me do one thing at a
just blow them
time.
up, Trips. You might as well just blow them up then.
Well, who
Fuck
knows?
it.
Maybe Trump will propose
Sorry.
that next, and we shouldn't listen to it. We should
Well,
just
you
assume
know,
it's
you
just
know
rhetoric.
that China has tariffs on us, right?
Oh,
we
yeah,
have
they
tariffs on-
responded. Yes, they responded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Right. But I'm not arguing the tariffs. I'm just saying.
and
So
and
then
to
came.
top
I
it
was
off,
trying
your
to
boy
land at a
up in
point.
Canada said don't drink Florida orange juice anymore. So I got a problem with him already.
There you go.
But I was-
The tariffs are coming back. We're gonna start doing tariffs against the European Union. Tariffs are a major part of Trump's economic plan.
And this is all I can say on this is every economist says tariffs are destructive to the economy. But what you guys are saying is that the
You talk
long
about the
game
worst
is
liars. There's the
No.
economists. The worst liars is the
they're doing the
economists.
math. But I'm assuming
Yeah,
you
but
were
they're
saying
not
the
running the
long game. The
businesses.
long game is
But
we're
hey,
going to
Lies,
prevail.
damn lies, and statistics. That's what they're
Trippi,
doing.
remember Kevin was a banker for 30 years. So
Oh yeah, so I know.
he probably knows numbers.
Oh no, I'm not arguing. No, I'm just saying if I were to listen to the economists, tariffs are bad. But Kevin's saying they're not bad. They're
I
not
listened to
bad.
Kevin
No.
when he was shit faced drunk 80 times over any economic professor, whatever the hell, theorist,
No, I'm
whatever.
not.
I would listen to the guy who funds the private enterprise 9,000 times out of 8,999. Just from a practical application standpoint, Trippy. I mean, I have
Just
to be
from a
real.
layman's point of view, if I
I
go,
mean,
like
if
you
you
said,
want
if
to
I
teach me
buy
how
a,
to golf at Top Golf versus me hanging out with like Tiger Woods, I think, well, you have a better
I
title,
got it. I got it.
but
I'm
you
just
look
pointing this out.
fancier,
I'm just trying to point this. I
but you're
get it. I agree.
educated, but
I
you have
get
more
it.
college.
Okay, so can I make this point? If
Yeah.
I go to buy a Nike pair of shoes
Yep.
and they come from China
Yep.
and there's a tariff on them,
Now
I
they're going to be
pay the
$200
additional. I pay the additional. I pay the additional.
when you can
That
go the next
means,
rack over, which is New
Listen.
Balance, which are made in America. Then you wouldn't be paying a tariff.
but what if I really want Nike?
Then
Well,
you got to pay the
you got to
additional
pay the
amount.
tariff. You got to
I
pay
gotta
today,
pay
bro.
it. That's the
Coach, you're right.
tariff. That's a tariff.
Coach, how did
Tax.
Paul Volcker? Do you remember you remember the 70s, the misery index, where inflation and
You
you
mean
I
know
when
remember
Jimmy
Paul
Carter was
Volcker.
president?
yeah, okay, well, yeah, okay. So what was that, Zach? What were
When
you
Jimmy
asking?
Carter was president, you mean?
Oh, I remember. No, that's right. Exactly. Okay. So how did Paul Volcker to break the back of stagflation? I mean, we were up in the high 18s, and it was insane. In inflation and the low economic growth. He raised interest rates 11% in 1 year. You want to know pain? This was under the Reagan administration, but it turned out it created a deep recession in 82. Yes. And then it created the longest period of economic growth in US history up to that point. So yes, is going to be pay, coach, you are going to pay higher for those Nikes this year, maybe next year. But when you come out on the other side, you're going to have a much stronger domestic economy because the capital would have shifted manufacturing, high-tech manufacturing, all sorts of manufacturing, where the innovation was created and originated here. And that means our workforce can now afford to pay for that higher cost to the extent that it's now being produced by higher paid American labor. But the
Right.
money is staying within. The problem with globalization is it made our labor compete against China, compete against Mexico, compete against South Korea. And as a result, the working class can't afford to buy a house anymore. The middle class can't afford to buy a house anymore.
Well, housing's
Right.
a whole nother story. But here's the thing about that.
Let me touch base on that real quick. Do you remember, Derek? You probably remember this more so, but you remember when Toyota and Nissan moved over here? They brought their plants over here to America.
I think I'm a little younger than that.
Okay. Well, they brought it over here because there was tariffs on those vehicles because they were saying Japan was kicking America's butt in the auto industry. And they said, you know what? Screw that. We're not going to pay tariffs. We're going to go ahead and give the Americans jobs, and we're going to build factories in America to build the cars in America so we don't have to pay those tariffs. So tariff is not a brand new thing. Tariffs been around for a long, long time.
They certainly have. But here's the point. Right now, they're not in place. Both
They need
Canada,
to be. They need to be.
Canada and Mexico are on pause.
Well,
because
he did that for a scare tactic, and they both snapped at attention and started doing what he wanted.
That's exactly
okay,
right.
that means you're not going to have tariffs.
Doesn't mean they're not going to
No,
be
that's
there.
not true. No, we're going to do tariffs. It's going to be a big program. It's going to have to get congressional support to make them constitutional. But he can do temporary things. He can do emergency things. That's why he used the drugs as the basis for doing it, right? He understands he understands the executive branch much better this time around. That's
My
why
broad faith in Donald Trump is significantly lower than the three of yours. My broad
That's
faith
fair.
is not there. It's not there. And this
Coach,
is
he's earned your
This is
contempt.
why.
He's earned your contempt.
I wish he does well. But here is why my broad faith in Donald Trump is not there. We've literally discussed this on this podcast, The Integrate, and I said, what did Donald Trump do in his first term? And then I argued the point, nothing. And then I said, but then everybody said, but we enjoyed this enormous economy when he was president. And I argued the point, and just let me finish. I argued the point that that was a coattail of Obama's policies because I really felt like the only thing Donald Trump did in his first term was the tax cut. It came sort of later in his first term. And then I realized, you know what? The fact that he didn't do anything during his first term meant we had 12 years of consistent policy versus what we normally have 4 to 8 years of policy, and then everything gets reversed, everything gets turned back, and we go to a whole new program. We are now entering into a whole new Donald Trump, more invigorated program that to me appears extremely destructive. And it just I don't see
Wrong.
a populist approach. I don't see it because I just read that Ukraine's arms shipments was paused and then restated a day later. And then it was argued, how do you know? Well, I do know because I'm reading it, but then it could be fake news, so I'm not reading it. Okay. So the populist movement isn't happening. The tariffs aren't happening. The only thing that's really happening is what I've said has always been happening for 50 years is the Republican Party for 50 or more years has been bound and determined to make the New Deal the screwed deal. And now they've got a guy who more than wants to do the heavy lifting, who more than wants to be their crash dummy, and it's going to be a big giant crash. That's me portraying Trump's next 4 years as what's going to happen. Now, if I'm wrong, I hope to God I'm wrong. I hope to God we can come back to this podcast and you three say, look how wrong you were, Coach Trippi, because I will acknowledge it. But if I'm right and I see the writing on the wall as what's going to happen is, it's simple. You can equate it with the whole EU. When the EU became one currency, countries like Spain, who had zero credit, suddenly had a 4.0 credit rating in the global market. And they borrowed from the World Bank like kids in a candy store. And they spent it all on socialize on entitlement programs. And then when the EU said, if you want any more money, you've got to cut all those entitlement programs down to zero. So they did, and their economy got even worse, and their ability to pay got even worse because the entitlement programs was a vital part of their economy. Well, we have that same problem in America. The entitlement programs are a significant part of our economy. And this crazy approach to just cutting them out from under the legs of people is going to
Call
result
me
in
ignorant. What do you mean
economic
by
devastation.
entitlement program?
Like, for example, the funding that was going to Meals on Wheels, the funding that was going to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, they're all entitlement programs. If we just cut them out like this president has done in his first most passionate 10 days of any presidency, and they
Wow.
stay.
You,
It's no good
you.
though. It's no
Yeah.
good though,
But
is what I'm
Coach
saying.
But
Trippy,
it's
the thing is, these are
passionate.
temporary
But
actions.
it's passionate.
Passionate.
I should
These
say
are
this. I
passionate.
should say this. It's passionate.
It,
It's
passionate. It's passionate.
Coach, these are
But
temporary actions. He can't legally cut out any of these programs
these are
without
a lot of
congressional.
things that so he will leave them cut until they're challenged in the courts. The courts take time to hear
No,
them.
the executive orders are not permanent. He didn't say in the executive orders that these programs are permanently cut. This is a
He did.
temporary pause, right? While they can do an inventory, and this is a part of what Doge is
And
doing, right?
according to him, the inventory is what part of these programs are DEI. That is a voluminous
Well, that's
task.
one. Yes, you're
That
right.
is
That's
a
one.
voluminous task.
But yes, but it's not the only test.
Okay, when you think of, do we agree that determining what program has some sort of DEI funding is a voluminous task? Now, if it's a voluminous task, if we don't agree, we don't agree. But if it is, it's time consuming. So
well,
how long is temporary?
the team that they have over there, the geniuses in the basement that Elon has over there,
The
supposed to be able to get it
geniuses.
done. No,
He just
seriously, I mean,
Elon just
they're
whacked the
yes.
department that allows people to file taxes online. Whacked it.
Now,
Elon did not whack
again,
anything. He
these
doesn't have
are
the power to whack.
temporary.
Okay, but this is
and-
January. That when people who were depending on filing those taxes we're going to spend that money in our economy. So if that stays whacked, that money's gone.
Or they
Agreed.
just go
If
over
it
to
stays
H&R Block
whacked.
and get it taken
But-
care of there.
There we go. No, look, this is the whole thing.
And I did my
You-
taxes online. So how did you say he whacked it?
That was he closed the department.
He can't do that.
He's
He makes
doing it.
suggestions. No,
It's being challenged.
he makes suggestions
He
to the
literally
president.
he literally hoodwinked the email system.
You're
to
literally
tell
watching CNN and believing their
he
crap.
sent out
He
millions
did
of
not.
emails telling federal employees retire and get this enormous program that he can't
Yeah.
do, but he managed
Elon
to
Musk
get the
did not
emails
do
out.
that.
He
Elon
got
did
the
not do
emails
that.
out.
No, he didn't. President Trump
president-
sent them out.
yeah.
First of
Yes,
all,
the president.
Elon
and-
makes
and- yeah.
suggestions. Elon does
Okay.
not have any power. He has no authority
Okay,
or power to do anything.
but it
He's in
happened,
the
right?
president's ear.
But it happened, right?
Well, Trump could have said, I ain't doing that, but he decided that he wanted to, so he did.
Okay,
Yeah.
and is it destructive?
I don't know yet.
Well, no,
I guess we're
yeah,
gonna
we don't
find
know
out.
yet. And that's
We
what
don't
I'm saying.
know.
I mean, right now, it's hard to
Did you see
tell.
all the stuff that they found at the USAID?
This
All
$7
the
million
programs.
for yes, I saw it, and it's wrong. And you know how that works? That works like this: Congress says we're going to write this bill, then Democrats say we won't vote for it unless we have this in it. And you know what Republicans say? Okay, put it in there. And then they all agree on it, and it gets sent to the president's desk. So whatever you're talking about, $7 million for transgender Broadway plays in Ukraine.
You think Republicans agree with that?
All agree on it. It's a concession. It's a concession. It is a part of the back and forth.
Ain't no back and forth because it's not. What election? What votes in Congress are you talking about that are actually
Republicans
bipartisan?
in the House.
There's no way. There's
You
no
can't
way.
get. How can you get a bill passed without it? Right now,
Right now, you need Republicans, but when
those $7 million and $12 million that Zach documented for me was all had bipartisan voters in there.
oh no, I don't believe that at all.
I'm telling you, I've watched Congress in action.
Look,
I-
there is compromises in some things, particularly when you talk about budget, and and so it's within the context of a $3 trillion budget or some such, and what are we talking about? The entire
$7 million for a
yes,
gay show in Ukraine.
Some 4,000-page budgetary report and stuff like that for a $12 million, $7 million expenditure is like
You're saying
on
it, but
page
Zach, does that $12 million,
3,225.
Zach, does that $12 million irk your fancy?
Which one? For what?
$12 million for the Ukraine to develop.
That was what it was for, but they don't know where the money went. That bothers me.
But it's there. The line item is there, and you don't think the line item should be there? Is the question.
That we should spend $12 million on.
Yes, that's a question. Is that wrong?
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely it's wrong.
He's saying it's trivial.
No, I'm saying that you're making it sound like it's a bipartisan thing.
It's
right?
a vote.
Because-
It would not
no,
got
no.
through the House. It would
Mike,
nothing gets through the
listen.
House. Nothing can get through the House on a party line. Nothing other than Obamacare.
Oh,
It's the
oh,
only
I'm
thing
sa-
that got through the House on a party line.
But
Yeah,
here's
but wasn't
the
the
thing.
majority of the people in the House Democrats?
You're talking about the budget
But
bill.
nothing else. There's no other documented bill that got through the House on a party line other than Obamacare.
Yeah, but the thing is they agreed to a lot of things, but this line item within the context of the federal budget is so small that it's not like actual Republicans looked at it and said, "Oh yeah, okay, we accept that."
So they
like
didn't
you're
do their
presenting.
job.
No,
So they didn't do
no,
their job.
they look. They all. All I'm saying here is that it's not bipartisan. The idea, which is why when you bring it to light, everyone is embarrassed and hiding under the table. No one is defending it, right? Where's the Democrats stepping out and saying, "Yes, we must have this"? What's the problem?
Oh, there's plenty.
No.
I mean, I'm sure Andrea
Well,
Ocasio-Cortez
they
is
defend
one of them.
USAID, yes, but they're not defending these.
He
line
actually had
items
the
that-
balls to call Elon Musk an idiot today.
Who?
AOC. She called. She said he's stupid and doesn't know what he's talking about. Says the donkey.
Doesn't she have a Tesla?
I'm pretty sure she does.
Probably.
Kevin.
Probably.
Kevin,
Yes. No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what AOC.
I want
drives.
to talk about your book.
Yes, please, Derek. Bring it.
Okay, I want to know. I want to know what about our shared experiences has gone wrong culturally in America with what we pursue, what you talked about, the empty feeling, and what's got to change in terms of what we value and how we perceive success and prosperity. Tell us a little bit about, give us a little excerpt from your book on what you believe the correction is here.
Really appreciate you asking that question, Derek. And I'm not trying. I know we're having a good time here with these conversations, and now all of a sudden
You are the guest.
it got serious and quiet, and E.F. Hutton like and all this other stuff. But nothing I'm about to say is stuff that we don't know. The problem is that we this is not the basis by which we make choices. We make choices based on these virtues that we have been accepted from the time of our birth in this country. The notion of freedom, the notion of independence, the notion of competition, the notion of self-interest. These are core virtues of being an American. The problem is if you make your choices on that basis, if those are the basis for what is a good choice, for for what success looks like, it obscures the reality that in fact we don't live independently. And so like, in other words, you cannot advance your own self-interest by hurting the hands that feed you, right? If you can make your own food and make your own clothes and you're living in the woods and stuff like that, then just to be candid, fuck everybody, right? Okay, because it doesn't hurt you. But if you're competing against the people who feed you, but because you're competing and you win, you get a better deal, they have shorter life expectancy. They can't do what they do as well because they're getting the short end of the stick. Your food is going to get jacked up eventually. And this is what we are experiencing. So the
Or you're
problem
going
is,
to take advantage of someone basically because
well,
you're destroying a competition, so you're eliminating it. So
I'm merely saying if the way we actually survive in our day, if you just ask yourself, right, who produced the food that I'm going to eat today? Who produced the clothes I'm wearing today? And you just keep on going down that list. Who produced the bed I'm sleeping in today?
Right.
Right.
China,
Okay.
China.
You will all of a sudden you realize that you rely on people, thousands of people, maybe millions of people that you will never know.
Right.
Right. And that when they fuck up, when they mess up, this is when we get food poisoning. This is when you mash the brakes and it don't work. Right. This is where the plane gets sideways and runs into the helicopter. Okay. So none of us live independently. Right. It is, yes, it's self-evidently true, but we forget about it when we decide who we're going to vote for. We forget about it when we meet a stranger, right? When we meet a stranger, we're like, who's that? Arm's length, stranger danger, whatever. But that might be someone who fixed your brakes last week. That might be someone who's reading your x-ray. My point being that we have to get out of this, these virtues convince us that we're separate and individual, and that what happens to you doesn't hurt me. If what happens to you doesn't hurt me, and then I'm allowed to do anything to you. And that's what we're doing to each other. We are crushing each other in the competition.
So does that independent mindset of America create the polarization, you think, where we say, where we say, well, listen, you're a 59-year-old straight half black, half whatever guy of what religion, instead of you're a million and one things, and you're a human being with the same dignity, respect, and rights that I have. And I'm a million and one things that a lot of them are different, but at the core, we're the same thing. And we might do different things and believe different things, but at the end of the day, you need me, I need you to respect, love, and perform.
Well, it sounds so simple.
It
But
is simple.
It is.
We complicate it.
The basic thing is we already know this. This is about remembering. What I went through was remembering who I am. I'm a part of something bigger than just this physical body by myself in my basement or whatever, wherever I'm at, right? That I'm actually a part of this human thing that produces the most amazing economy, that produces all these amazing things and all these horrible things around the world. It is a shift in mindset that remembers that we don't produce the air we breathe. If that Elon Musk is no more independent than anyone on this phone. Why? Because his money only buys what everyone else produces, and when they don't produce it right, it fucks him up too, right? I mean, we are all interdependent, and so if we are interdependent,
right,
we need to make that the baseline for how we solve problems, for how we see each other, right? We cannot continue to see each other as the competitor. The problem with competition is someone must lose. And we're all configured, that, hey, if the difference between me feeding my family is I got to win or you got to win, I'm winning, right? So then if that's how we're dealing with each other, how are we supposed to feel about each other? All of a sudden, the people who stand in the way of everything I need to take care of myself and my family is you all, right? And so of course we have contention, we have stress, we have struggle, we get to an easy place of contempt. Why? Because more and more of us are struggling to do that. And so as more of us struggle, the harsher the fight gets. And look at us now, cats and dogs cutting throats,
But
when
That's
we
very
all rely
funny.
on each other.
That's
I have a
funny.
question, though.
Traditionally, when you hire people, you put together a job description, qualifications, and minimum requirements for someone to meet the role of that job. And of course, in professional industries, there's education, knowledge, and certifications that you need for safety aspects, regulatory aspects that exist that are real. But non-skilled or non-licensed professional or the core of a hire, we have this, like, we've been given this traditional shift, and now what we're learning in America is the person who fits your mold perfectly could be completely utterly worthless at performing and executing what the function is that's needed to be done for a successful contribution to that company to add value and contribute to society. One thing I've done whenever I interview people, and I probably interview 10 to 12 people a week for different businesses.
Okay.
And of course, those things exist. Sometimes there's certain areas where a minimum amount of experience is needed. But the number one thing I do is I try to pick out, and I will verbalize this to the candidate. First off, I'll talk to almost anybody. It's just that if it's a waste of time or the matchup isn't there, we'll just be candid about, hey, dude, let's cut this. It's been 4 minutes. We already know this ain't it. But given that conversation, the one thing I'll do is I will pick out a positive attribute or contributing attribute to what needs to be done and verbalize that. And I'll see one thing in this candidate, like, well, this candidate understands that sales is it's a matter of how quickly you got to go through the nose to get the yes. That's a positive. Now, they might not be the top enterprise salesperson for the last 30 decades, but that mentality might carry them there, right? So it's just kind of a mentality shift of how can we limit and box people and categorize them and just kind of keep them caged in versus what do we see in someone that can contribute or interrelate to what we're doing or to the position that we need contribution from. And I'll tell you what, like, in my window tint business, like, I don't like to talk to people who haven't been around tint for a year and tinted at least 100 cars because they'll break something, right? I'll go out of business.
Okay.
That's a given.
All right.
But I can tell you this, I can take a guy with a year of experience, and in the volume my shop has, in the next year, I can give him more experience than another shop can in 10 years. So if his DNA, character, soft skills, can do, ability to be a good employee, value is there, I'll make that person a way better tinter than anyone who's incredible at it without all those attributes. Guaranteed, because I can give them the volume. Does that make sense? So
No,
it's
it does
not,
make sense.
it becomes, yes, there's standard and guidelines for what we have to fulfill, but they're not the end all be all to where we're going.
Understood. So there is a micro consideration, and this is what we've been talking about in terms of the fact that we are interconnected and these virtues are not serving us. But there's a macro effect also. We're literally coming to the end as you aggregate what all this competition is doing, all this free market capitalism is doing, is that it is encouraging us to accumulate as much as we can to ourselves as possible, right? This is why we have this incredible billionaire class, right? The problem is that we are extracting the natural resources we're extracting today exceeds the carrying capacity of the planet. In other words, we're extracting more natural resource than the planet can replenish in a year. And we're doing it as of, there's an actual term for it, global overshoot day. We are extracting a year's worth of natural resources by August 2nd. Okay. And every year it's going backwards. Right. The national overshoot day in the United States is in March 14th, to give you some idea. So by March 14th, the United States extracts a year's worth of global resources if everyone used resources like we did. Okay, my point being is this is not sustainable. We are literally drawing down the natural resource availability for future generations by using more now. So we're coming to the end of the road for extractive, pro-growth, perpetual growth economics. We're coming to the end of that period. We're facing an actual crisis of that we need to shift our economics to something that can sustain steady state. In other words, right now, capitalism can't do steady state. Capitalism does economic booms and economic busts, recessions, right. It cannot stay at equilibrium. It's just the way it functions. This is our lesson over the last 250 years of capitalism. So we need a new type of economics, and it's not socialism, communism. We need to.
I'm gonna be honest
away.
with you. What you just pointed out sounds very liberal versus very conservative. It's a concern.
This is just factual.
Whenever
this
I
is just
think of
factual.
Democrats, and the one thing I don't particularly care for is everything's a 5-fire alarm. Everything's a 5-alarm fire. Everything. So when we talk about we're overshooting by March,
Yeah.
I'm not that concerned about it. I'm 100% capitalist. And when I think that if Andrea Ocasio-Cortez knew we were overshooting by March, she would try to pass some crazy ass legislation that just somehow prevents us overshooting till the following year, December.
You do know that her education and rationality is about 1/16 of this combined show. So the fact,
right? So, but I'm just
all killer,
saying,
no filler, right?
Whenever the only reason I pointed that out, and I
there we go. I like that, Derek.
God, why talk about this woman?
No, I'm done with her. But whenever I point that out, I think everybody thinks I'm
Trippy,
just ultra.
They have better
opinions. Is this a crush? Is this an AOC crush?
No,
oh,
no.
Okay.
But whenever I point that out, it's because I think
aesthetically,
the reason I point that out is because Zach points me out as being this ultra liberal, but then I'm 100% capitalist. I mean, if the environment's affected, I want some improvement.
But you're blanketing people again, right? I mean, why can't he have environmental opinions that are traditionally seen as progressive?
No, I'm not blanketing people. I like his opinions and I like his concerns.
I like people to have independent thought, at least in terms of
right, and I like that too. I'm just saying this is how we've come to this point in the road where where both parties are in total disagreement. You can't Donald Trump's the one who coined the phrase "beautiful coal." And there's people like, but you're getting it out of the side of a mountain, and that mountain's going to collapse, and then it's going to collapse on a camper's head, and that camper is going to. The end of the world is coming. No, I get it. The frustration people have with the liberal movement, but the frustration I have with the movement at the moment is it's so damn destructive. And then we're saying, one, we come to the conclusion we just can't believe anything we hear or he says. It's just going to be we got to see how he does, how he grows into this position. Then the other thing is at the end of this road,
we should impeach him already.
They're trying.
I know.
I'm just saying at the end of this,
I've had enough. This 2 weeks.
At the end of this,
2 weeks is too much. I can't handle it.
This is no rainbow we're facing. This is a dark doom.
Impeach him.
But at the end of this dark doom half moon is this pot of gold, and we just need to wait patiently for it. And I'm like, I'm not there with that either.
So you don't believe in macros. You believe in micros.
Can we move on the issue? I don't know how my statement on resource overshoot became environmental, but there is a reference document that I want to leave you guys with. It is from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Okay, now he really went crazy. Okay, this is an organization formed back in This is an organization formed back in 1988. Yes, it's a part of the United Nations. It's made up of the leading global scientists, non-profit science, not-for-profit science, the leading global scientists from 195 member nations. Okay, so every 7 years, they do a comprehensive global assessment on the issues that we were talking about, like how much natural resource we pull up. Okay. They issue out these reports every 7 years, and they're like 6,000 pages of reports. Like, who the hell is going to read that? But then they issue out something called Summary for Policymakers, which is like 40 pages long. And what it is the distillation of the most important things they learned in the last 7 years. And then all 195 member nations agree to it. So, okay, this is not ideology. If Israel and Iran and Russia and China and the United States and the EU countries and every country you've ever heard of, if all 56 countries in Africa and stuff like that agree, their scientists, including NOAA and the Department of Energy in the United States, if they all agree about resource overshoot, it's not ideology. It's not liberal or conservative. It's factual, okay? There is some data that's beyond ideology, right? And this data is informing our legislation. So if you look at the Inflation Reduction Act, what a con. It's an environmental bill, but of course we had to call it that. I don't know what, okay. If you look in the Inflation Reduction Act and you look in the executive summary, it literally says the national goal is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. That means getting out of fossil fuels by 40% by 2030. It's 2025, fellas. 40% by 2030. That's their goal, right? And the reason why they're saying it is because all 195 member nations, including China and India, have agreed that if we don't do that, we're going to have the kind of economic disruption from the warming of the planet that's going to melt the Greenland ice cap, that's going to raise sea level 8 meters in the next 100 years. 8 meters. If the oceans raise 8 meters,
how do you
seriously,
feel about
it will cover the coast. It will change the shape of the continents of this planet in 100 years. That's how bad this is. So yeah, you talk about an alarmist, but all 195 member nations have agreed to this. So this is why our legislation has changed. EU legislation has changed. China and India are producing they're the number one producers of renewable energy in the world. So we could talk about how they're not concerned about the environment and don't have the regulation. They're beating us in producing renewable energy. Why? Because their scientists agree if we don't do this, we're going to have catastrophic impacts over the next 100 years. So
do you agree with the Inflation Reduction Act or no? Because it was an environmental bill and it was an energy bill, but it ultimately was built out as an infrastructure. So you agree with it?
I'm a climate. Yes, I agree with. It's not ideology.
Zach, are you a climate guy?
No.
Okay.
I understand.
So here is 4 friends
Yeah.
that can't even. You're saying 195 nations agree on it. Zach,
I will sit down with Zach and show Zach the data.
Okay, hang on.
I know that if I show Zach the data.
If he sits down,
I'd like to see how they all got swayed.
Well, this was this way. There is nothing else on this planet that these countries agree on. All of them. Okay. The data is absolutely
me personally, and you know, it's no offense to you. This is I think climate change is a crock.
I hear you.
It's nonsense. I was with you. The same. Listen, go to Ellis Island in 1910 and go to Ellis Island right now. The water level's the same, hasn't changed. And you know, the polar caps melt and then they come back. They'll go there in the summertime and show them, oh my gosh, they're melting. It's summer. Come on. You know?
But Zach,
I don't know where you stand. I don't know where you stand.
Experts agree.
I don't care about them. They got paid off. So
come on. I was showing you the information.
There was something in there.
Listen. I got a problem with China, bro.
So let me hold on.
Do you know Asian culture?
I don't know where you stand religiously. Hold on, Derek. Hold on a second. I don't know where you stand religiously, but that's where I base my belief in, because the good book that my God wrote said he will never flood the earth again. So I believe everyone else is full of crap.
And I hear you. And it'd be great if physics was based on faith.
Love that.
I would be all with you. But I can tell you.
Physics is science, and science are facts, right? But that's not truth, because facts can be changed.
Facts can be changed. We could be wrong. There's no certainty about this.
Right.
There's no,
But when
but there's
when
no certainty about anything. That
when my God says
where's
it's not going to
certainty?
happen again, I got to go with what the truth is versus facts.
But what
We don't
happens
have-
if it's not flooding? What happens if we really do get into these dire straits where the temperature changes? I'm just asking a question. I'm not posing a statement.
Have you
So
lived
what-
in
here's-
Florida the last 14 months? It's cold as
So
hell,
what
man.
happens? What happens if
you
it,
guys
what,
are in
my
Florida.
point
I
is,
can't
hang on,
It
pause.
snowed 9 inches in Tallahassee.
Pause. 1 second. Let me just ask this question.
Don't ask
It's
me,
not-
just
That's not
ask me.
warm. That's not normal.
It's not
That's
flooding.
120
But what if
years
the
terrible low.
climates is so dramatic that farms can't function and people starve?
It's already happening.
When are they
We're already
talking
losing
about when
crop
it's going to
yields.
happen? When is this
He's saying it's
drastic
already
stuff going to
happening.
happen?
What is the
Derek, is it
drastic?
already happening?
Did you see? No, hold it. Did you see Asheville, North Carolina?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was.
I mean,
It was
yeah.
a weird anomaly.
It was a weird anomaly.
We're not gonna go down that hole because
It was a
I'll
time.
start
No,
telling
but
you, I believe the government
okay.
did it, but that's okay. I'm
No,
a
I'm trying to say.
conspiracy theorist on
I
that.
know there's a ton, Zach. I know there's a ton of anecdotal evidence, and I agree with you. Just giving you anecdotal evidence is not going to be enough.
You just
I
go
hear
with the
you.
land hurricane is it's like the most rarest thing that ever happens.
Yeah, that's
Once
what
in
I'm
a
saying.
thousand years.
We are getting.
Hey, I won't be alive
Last
another 1,000
August we got the first tropical storm on off the coast of California.
Right.
So we have the Arctic current coming down from Alaska, and the Pacific Ocean is getting warm enough to support a tropical storm.
I
So
will
that means
say that,
hurricanes
the
are coming
Atlantic
to
Ocean last
California.
year was like 100 degrees, man.
Right.
That was-
because you have the Gulf Stream from the Caribbean. Our Gulf Stream on the West Coast
Or
comes
is
from
it from the
Alaska.
volcanoes under the ground that are bubbling back up again too?
But I'm trying to say, when you start getting hurricanes
So,
in
so here's
California,
my philosophy on global change or climate change. Absolutely, climate changes every single day. Is it going to be destructive, massive, catastrophic?
well, climate's the macro.
If,
Weather's the
if
micro.
Climate is the macro.
probably-
It's the macro.
The four of us probably won't be here, so it won't really. To me, I don't care.
we are
I
now
only
within 100 years.
have
Trippi,
one. I have
what's
one
my
problem.
favorite line?
Can you see it
Listen,
from my
guys,
living room or
I
something?
can't see it out my window, so I don't care.
Listen,
No,
No,
I
here's
have
my-
one.
I
I
can't
have
believe
one
you don't see
very,
it out your
very,
window.
very-
There's
I
a-
do. I
huge-
Although
no,
it's 84
listen.
degrees here today, so
There's
that's
a
all right.
huge fallacy in this when it comes to China specifically.
China.
Asian culture, alternative energy production, byproduct of the mining of the minerals to create that,
Right.
and then the studies and comparisons of that exhaustion versus the two. I have just like we saw our friendly friends told us the truth about COVID and the conspiracy theorists. Don't let them talk, but they might have been right a long time ago. Just like we found that is not that's a different cat, okay, to skin. We talk about government hiding things. When we talk about Asian culture, we have a feature called save face, honor, things we don't have in America. We're open books. We think it's funny when we fart and we post it on social media. We have TikTok.
I don't have a fart button.
Listen.
They have.
Listen.
They have
Listen.
TikTok. I thought they owned
Listen.
it.
Listen. When you
How's
get a
yours?
statistic of production out of China, I don't care if it's right or wrong. It is meant to benefit the economic interest for the economic war we are in.
Right.
And China is not producing alternative energy for a firm belief on sustainability and resource usage. They're producing it for profit. They're putting off byproduct in the mining of coal and cadmium, which, by the way, will run out in less time than our natural gas will, which is true.
Hmm?
They don't give a, Zach, what's the word? Shit. About, okay, no, I'm just saying, like, okay, all these opinions can be, but just in terms of country opinions, just know that there are some that are opinion for a benefit.
Right.
Okay. So we have to believe that. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying my skepticism lies in the fact that the by far most populated large, and you can kind of put India in this a little bit, minus some of the cultural stuff, because they have some of the highest pollution and waste byproduct, but they are also producing the alternative energy that China is with the cadmium and the coal, all that kind of stuff. Listen, man, I'm cultured. I've traveled. I love everybody. I don't trust a statement that would come out of Beijing.
But we're not.
When
Hang
it
on one
comes
second.
to environmental economics. And I studied environmental economics in college. I am not kidding you. It was
But we're
actually,
not.
I thought it was going to be the most boring BS. It was extremely interesting because this is 20 years ago and we were just getting into like cost comparisons of hybrids, how much they cost versus the economic, function of these things. And I'm just going to say right now, that's one country that holds all the influence, all the money, all the production, all the byproduct, and all the pollution. That for me to really take a look and get interested, I would want to see comparisons of emissions versus byproduct versus real numbers. I'm sorry, guys, you're gonna get really deflated. You'll never absolute suck. You'll never know that from China.
Right.
Well,
But here's the
I
thing.
wasn't
Here's the thing.
speaking.
That according to Derek, we're not just talking about China. He said 195 countries.
We might as
Everybody
well talk
agrees.
about just China, Trippy. They're kind of the only one
Yeah.
that matters.
So
Well,
here was
I
my
can't.
question. Here was
It's
my
like
question.
saying I have
So,
190 ants and then like a gorilla.
but here's my question. Hang on.
Okay, cool. The ants are cool. Okay, that's great. They all
What,
agree.
what were the 195 countries? I don't need you to name them all.
Well,
Was
that's
it
most of the
major
world. That's
countries?
most
Yeah.
of the
Most
world.
of the
There's
world.
what?
90. What is it? 90% of the
No,
world.
Zach,
Who cares?
I'll
Because the
send you.
world
I'll
is
send you
what,
guys the list.
227 or
Okay.
230?
Yeah, I have the
That's
list of
most
the
of the world.
countries. Yeah,
That's most of the world.
it's everyone you know. I mean,
Yes.
I mean, it's
So your
literally
point's
down to
valid. Your
Iran,
point's
Iraq.
valid.
So here's my
But
question.
my point is the production and the data comes out of the most
Well, I hear you, Derek.
subjective, regulated,
You're
governmental
speaking to them.
influence.
You're
You know what I'm
speaking to
saying?
their motivation, and I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm
Right,
not. I'm
right.
not speaking to their motivation. What I'm
Right.
saying here is that their participation, what they're actually doing, why they're doing it. You're right. Everyone is doing it to advance their own interests and has their own reasons. It doesn't have to be altruistic. At the end of the day, it's a recognition that we need the transition. We need the transition out of fossil fuels. One, because we're burning through the historical. We're going to run out of
Well,
fossil
what
fuels
I'm just saying is
over the next
because
100 years,
China,
by the way.
what I'm just saying is because China's the producer and because they are in it for their interest that they
Of
may
course
put
they are.
out they
But
may
you-
be the one
but
they may
you
they may
both-
be the one country who doesn't agree with it and doesn't care and the only one that matters.
But here's my
But
question.
they-
You both are minimizing the environmental effect.
But they're
and
always going to
saying
say they agree
China's doing
because
it
the
for
money comes in,
self-gain.
baby.
China's doing it for
And maybe-
self-gain. China's not doing what they say they're doing.
My point is,
to
show me the
minimize it.
byproduct and
Right, I
show
got
me
it.
show
I'm
me the
saying-
differences.
So then comes the issue that is it the United States' responsibility to do the heavy lifting? I am concerned about environmental consequence. I'm not at all convinced it's our job to do the heavy lifting.
Because we can't
So if
control
we're saying-
China.
We can't control China, exactly.
Or
So
Russia.
They're
then
going to do
you've
what
got
they do.
Or
you've got
Russia.
no agreement on it, but then you've got Zach's point of view that it's all nonsense. So you got nonsense.
I don't
You've
think we'll
got
ever know
China.
until we're
You
dead.
just got China bold-faced lying about what they're doing about it. You've got
That's true.
nonsense. You've got the United States liberals saying we should be fixing the problem on our own.
That's
Then we're
not
saying
right.
just like then we're saying just like Derek, but if we do that, it's going to screw our economy, so we can't do that. So basically, you're at a point, and this is something where
We're too
you're
far
at a
gone, bro.
point where nothing's going to get done, and that may be where the reverement for a certain person comes in. He's just like beautiful coal and these crazy things, and it's like I get it, but and maybe
It's
that's
Mr.
what makes
Holland's
him so.
opus.
Maybe I'm
Beautiful,
asking.
beautiful.
Maybe I'm answering my own question.
Beautiful
Maybe that's
coal.
where the adulation comes in, is where you're just a guy that makes the most craziest statement in the world. But the problem with the craziest statements in the world is they're coming from a very powerful man. And that's something that you justified. He can make these statements because don't take them serious. And
Well, he
that's
does them on
where-
purpose.
Right.
He doesn't even intend for them to be
he
taken
knows-
seriously, other
so
than
he-
to drive Democrats and progressives crazy.
He
Which he
knows
does all
Effective,
the time.
effective
and he knows
tonight,
what he's
definitely.
doing, Trippy.
Huh?
Yeah.
I said he's one of the greatest chess players. He already knows the end game, and he's 3 moves ahead of everybody else.
That makes
already.
Trippy a
Ergo
pawn.
the adulation. It's not a
You're
great
just a
chess
pawn,
player.
man.
Hey, but hey, Trippy,
Well, that's
seriously,
beyond.
can you
Yes.
deny the level of success? I mean, seriously, it's got to be the greatest comeback. But just
No,
objectively.
Well, first
Just
of all, it's the only
objectively.
comeback. Nobody's ever come back after a loss and said, "I'm running for
34
president again."
felonies,
So,
all this other, I mean, come on.
but
Yeah.
like everybody said, they literally the
Three
felony,
assassination
the
attempts.
the
Three
felony
assassinations.
charges. So I've always said the
Theft of
comeback,
$300
maybe
million.
the fact that
Yeah.
Democrats just handled the whole thing so wrong is why the comeback even came back. Because
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
34 felonies and all the other, I even said, and I was one harping on his behavior.
Handed
I
it
said,
to
you know
us.
what? It doesn't affect him as a president. So I said, I'm just going on policy. I'm not going on his personal actions. I'm not going on his criminal actions. I'm going on his policy. I'm just not impressed yet. But you said there's some golden pot at the end of this dark moon.
Yes.
And
The only
I
person who
don't
sees a
see
dark moon is you.
there we go.
no, the only people
Seriously.
that don't see the dark moon is people who just believe in this crap he's putting out there.
And we're
But
just
the thing is-
comparing
but-
to the last 4 years. We're good.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm gonna
Well,
go back.
seriously,
I'm gonna go back
okay.
with my football analogy. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, and I believe every year we're gonna get to the Super Bowl, and we still haven't. But guess what? I ain't never
So-
given up.
Don't give up, right? But then
So
don't
why
don't
wouldn't I
tell the
believe in
person.
Lions.
Why
But
would I
then
be,
don't tell the person that says you're not going to the Super Bowl. He's crazy.
why would I not believe the guy who I'm loyal to?
You should believe the guy you're loyal to.
Okay,
but telling the
then
person who doesn't believe in him he's an idiot for not believing him is an idiotic statement.
Can we all agree that, okay,
I agree with you, Trippi.
this is the president, right? Okay, fine. So find what you could work with him on. Fight like hell for anything you disagree with. That's fine. And I'll do the same. But
I
how
can
about
say,
you? Are you,
okay, so I
are
can
you
work with
saying
him
that
on.
there's nothing, I mean, you don't support ending the forever wars?
You know who ended the forever war? The only president that actually ended a forever war? Do you want to know who that president was? Joe
Who was that
Biden.
Oh
He
my
called
God.
bullshit on a bullshit war, and he ended a 20-year effort that got us nowhere for 20 years.
No,
He didn't
how
end
could
that
you
war.
even-
It's still
how-
going
no,
on.
no, guys.
It's
wait,
not with
how
our
could you-
troops there. Our troops aren't there.
You
That's
don't
the
think
point.
You're
we're still
talking
in
about
Afghanistan?
Afghanistan.
Our guys are
Oh
not
yeah,
there.
he thinks that was the greatest movie ever made.
that
Greatest
ended a
movie.
forever war when
It went on for 20
Joe
years
Biden
with
Do you
has
not
zero
think our troops are still in
results.
Afghanistan?
Joe Biden has been in in support of every war that we have fought in the last 30 years.
Okay,
True.
I mean,
but
just
did he
look at
end
his-
the
I mean,
Afghanistan
come on.
war?
No.
Did he
No.
What's going on?
He
He did
pulled
not
the
end
troops
the
out.
How
Afghanistan
do you know
war.
our
He
troops
pulled the
aren't still
troops
there?
out, yes.
Kevin
He
just
pulled the
talked
troops out.
about that in the beginning of the podcast. How everything the post Vietnam effect, where we learn nothing from bringing it into our living room, to now disillusioning these guys in Afghanistan for 20 years, only to frickin' just say, pull the plug.
It's a
Bagram,
forever
what?
war, and we
Everyone,
ended it.
hold on to the
It
wheels.
was a 20-year forever war, and
you
it's ended.
kidding
That
Our
he
me?
guys
turned around-
came home.
Bro,
That he turned around and started in
bro.
Ukraine.
It's done.
What do you mean? He turned around
We
and
started a
another
war in
the
Ukraine.
base,
We don't
bro.
even have a
Yes.
single troop in Ukraine.
Yes,
Bro,
Russia
keep
has
the
troops in
base.
Ukraine.
No.
Keep the air
We-
base to get people out, bro.
Look, check out
Again,
Jeffrey Sachs.
Presidents don't order extractions. Generals order extractions. Presidents say
Yeah,
extract.
he had some great generals.
Oh, okay. So I don't know how we got. Yeah, our heads exploded over the Biden thing. I mean, history will tell that story. All
Yeah,
I'm
for
saying
sure.
here is the reality is there is this president. And yes, as dark as the sky is from your perspective, Coach Trippi, what I'm saying to you and what all Americans should be doing, because this is what we used to do, whether it was Reagan or Obama, right, is what can you work with him on? Because we
Mhm.
have him for 4 years. And how does it serve you that that any president is an absolute complete failure, because all you're going to do is interpret everything they do in the worst possible light and fight against everything they do? If that's what you're going to do, if that's what the country is going to do, then yeah, then if he's not successful, do you think it might be because of that? Right?
No.
Don't we want our
No, we've got to scrutinize our president.
you
We've
should
gotta hold him
I just
recognize,
accountable.
but is
let
there
me-
nothing you can support?
Hold on
on?
one second.
Nothing?
I
Quick
support
correction.
a lot of things.
Hold on.
I
Quick
support
correction.
closing the education department,
correction.
not
Zach has a
overnight.
correction.
Zach.
Trippy, quick
I-
correction for
He
you.
asked a question, though. Let me answer the question.
Hold on. How many troops are in Afghanistan?
American troops, we pulled out the bulk of them.
Okay,
I don't
there's
know
still
the
troops
idea.
there. There's 5,000 troops. So he didn't end anything.
Have you
Other
heard
than
of a
waste-
troop get it? The
other than
Taliban is
waste
running
our
the
money.
country.
There's 5,000 troops still in Afghanistan and 2,500 in Iraq.
Okay.
So he
And
didn't do nothing.
so he didn't do nothing. He didn't remove some 30
There was
to
14,000.
40,000.
No, there was 14,000. And now there's 5,000. So he just took out 10.
He ended the war.
There's still a war going on. It never ended.
Not
There
with
will never
our
be a
guy.
war in. There will never not be a war in the Middle East.
You're talking Afghanistan.
Where is Afghanistan? Eastern Asia? It's in the Middle East.
I got it, but he pulled the troops out. That was the argument. He pulled
He
the
did
troops
not.
out.
There's still troops there.
It's done.
Imagine
It's
being
not.
those guys. Oh my
It's not.
gosh.
Right.
Yeah,
And
right.
you know what the
Right.
best part of it
It's
all
kind of
is?
like the guys who Hillary and them guys left over in whatchamacallit. The 14 of them that got killed.
Benghazi.
Benghazi?
Benghazi. Hang on. Let's talk about Beirut.
No,
when
no, let's not go
230
down
Marines
another
got
rabbit
killed
hole.
on Mattis's watch. We
Let's
keep
not go
talking
down
about a
another rabbit
Secretary
hole.
of State who has no military intelligence, who has no military understanding, and there
Oh,
was a
wait.
general.
Who's the
There was a
secretary?
general. There was a
who's the
Ronald
Secretary of
Reagan
State?
who ordered our Marines into Lebanon, and they were killed by a suicide bomber, and they didn't belong there. You keep beating a dead horse about Benghazi. Let's talk about the Marines in Beirut. How many of them died sleeping in their bunkers?
Gentlemen, we were about to put a bow on this, to say, can we
Put it on.
agree to,
No.
right? Can we agree that because this is the president, because there are centrist Democrats who are about to get confirmed to important positions,
That's
both
right.
running American health and,
Right.
and running the intelligence
One
agencies,
centrist
right?
Democrat, that's a
Right.
Kennedy, the biggest piece of crap on earth.
Oh, that is insane for anyone who considers themselves a progressive or anyone who considers
I'm not a
themselves
progressive
Democrat.
at all.
For-
I am
well,
far
okay.
from a progressive.
Okay, so what I'm saying here is that there are centrist Democrats working key components of Trump's agenda. If you can't get behind drill
get
baby
behind
drill, or you can, if you can't get behind the immigration policy, okay, right? Can you get behind, right? Dismantling corporate capture of big ag and big pharma,
Yes.
of our regulatory agencies? Can you get behind taking the overbloated military budget and reinvesting to rebuild the American middle class? Can you get behind reinvesting in modernizing American infrastructure? Why don't we have high-speed rail? Why don't we have, there's so much we don't have in this country
You're
that we're
talking about
perfectly capable of
infrastructure
doing.
from the exiting president who passed the two biggest infrastructure
Yes,
bills in the history
no,
of
I
busy
hear
America.
you.
sending money
We
to
need much
Ukraine.
more. We need much
Approved
more
by
investment.
Republican Congress.
Doesn't
I
matter.
agree.
It's
It does
garbage.
matter.
They should have fixed our city streets before they sent a dime to anyone.
Mike Johnson could have stopped that bill dead
All
in
right,
its
let
tracks.
Kevin finish what he's saying, because that's an
Yeah.
argument that you and I can have another day, because you're always wrong.
So
Because
I'm
you're
just
left.
saying, can we commit to finding issues that you do support, that
I do
this
support that. That's what I
administration,
was trying to answer a minute ago. I support
Okay.
closing the Department of Education slowly, orderly,
Okay,
and
okay.
effectively, and dividing the problem or the challenge into 50 states.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
agree.
100%.
It's not getting done slowly, orderly, or effectively. It's just going to get done half-assed, immediately, haphazard, destructively
How
by
does
a
it need to
man
be?
who.
Why does it need to be done slowly and orderly?
Because you
He
have kids
says-
going to school that will have no direction from any administrator until that void is filled.
If he
The
says,
states are
if he
not ready
says
to take over.
all 50 states, it's yours. Take it.
They're not ready. They have nothing in place.
So
Well, here's the
nobody
thing.
has a Department of Education. There's no Department of Education in Florida.
Not ready to take over what the feds are doing now. There needs to be an
Feds don't-
orderly
What do the
transition.
feds actually do?
I
for
don't
our
work in the
education?
Department of Education, but I
Okay,
do know
then,
they
so-
I
What
was
was that?
just
What was that,
responding.
Derek?
He said, "What do the feds actually do for the Department of Education in Florida?" I go, "Wah, wah, wah, wow."
What is the big rush? You've had this department in place for Ronald Reagan promised to close it 40 years
Can I
ago.
answer
They
everything?
closed it now.
There's
Yeah,
no
Derek, do
money.
this.
There's no money. There's
What
no
is-
money.
Yeah,
No
Cut it
money.
out.
we've
Cut
already
the
given
sh-
that to the super wealthy.
Cut it
There's no
out.
money left.
Don't give it there. Don't give it overseas. Starve Putin out of fucking end the rest of Nord
Guys.
Stream. Europe can take our stuff.
This has been an
Get him
incredible
out of money.
conversation.
Get Iran out of money. All it dries up, and you know what? That's about as peaceful as you can get when you got some broke
I think when we
wacko.
finally do go to Epcot, we should invite Kevin.
Kevin,
You're
Let's
you're
go.
flying-
Kevin,
you're
back me
flying.
up. Make the wackos broke. Make the world great again.
Hey,
Make
I
us
just say,
listen. If we can cut our stuff and we can sell our stuff and we can have our head on our shoulders and be a what do we call it? A democratic. What do we call
We're
democratic?
a Democratic Republic.
Right.
A Reagan
Everything.
Democrat?
Everything will be as good as it can be for us, at least.
Yeah. Let's just do our thing. Let's just do our thing. They,
Hey,
but
We've
But
been doing it for
what's
2 hours
crazy?
and 15 minutes
Here's
now.
one thing I don't agree with. He's not being aggressive enough.
Oh Lord.
Like, dude, I would be over there, and I'd be like, okay, who's setting C4s on the Nord Stream here? Still got 2 more open pipes right here. All right, why don't you
Eric,
set those, blow that up?
he's
and then,
already given
okay,
the world a heart attack. You
dear
could,
Europe,
we just
dear
had,
Europe, dear Europe, you will only buy from us.
we just
we will
had
lower your energy.
geriatric hour for the last 4 years. He's, I mean,
Make
he's
them
already,
broke again.
he's
Make
already in
Russia
the
broke
fast
again.
lane. He's just, I mean, this
MR
guy is ripping.
MRBA. Make Russia broke again.
How about
Make
we do-
Iran
so-
broke again.
Make AOC
Okay, let's have
bartend again.
let's have a round of predictions.
Make her what
round of
again?
predictions.
Bartend.
Oh.
Can we have a round of predictions?
Oh,
Okay,
yes.
let's
And
line this
listen,
thing up.
Derek,
This-
Kevin, I'm going to give you a little secret on this one. Whatever Trippi says, vote against because he's batting 1,000 right now. So
He's
we're-
batting 1,000 on his
yeah,
predictions.
batting
Okay,
1,000 on his predictions.
here we go. Okay,
Round of
Is
predictions.
Tulsi- is Tulsi Gabbard going to get confirmed?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Well, so Zach, you said yes.
Yes.
Okay, Coach Trippi.
No.
Derek.
After today, I believe so. Yes.
Yeah, I say yes.
I
too.
would have said no before today, but
I'm only going with no just because I know you
hearing
guys are all
today.
going to say yes. Knowing how the Senate works, she's probably going to get confirmed. But I'm
So,
going to say I'm going to go with it.
Did
no.
you guys hear this the other day? This last, I don't know if it's the last 5 days or 4 days, whatever, since they started talking to RFK and Tulsi and the other person, that the congressional phone system is down because they were getting 600 plus calls a minute telling them to push them through and confirm them already from American people.
Yep.
Do you know what I
That's
said before?
that's why America's going to be great again, because now
Do you know
we're
who's making
realizing
those-
we're taking
do you know
control
who's making
again.
those
We-
phone
we-
calls? And do you know who's not making those phone calls?
It is the guy from India. Hello, I have your insurance warrant.
No, Republicans are making those phone calls, and Democrats are just sitting it out because we know she's going to get confirmed.
Republicans
I
are
don't-
not making
I don't
those
think
phone
RFK
calls
is
because
gonna
we're
get
at work
confirmed
while
either.
Democrats are
That was
sitting
my
at home.
next question. So,
Yeah.
Coach Trippi, you're saying RFK is not going to get elected?
I
we're
don't
not
think
gonna get-
so. I don't
Okay, so
think
you say no. Zach, what do you think?
I 100% think you will.
Yeah. Okay, Derek,
Who are we doing?
RFK
Okay.
Jr.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Yeah,
After
yeah.
today, again. After today.
So
yes.
what's left after these?
I definitely
two?
think RFK. Yeah, then it's the FBI director, and I think he's gonna.
Oh, Cash Patel will get confirmed.
Cash Patel,
Yeah.
and I think he'll get confirmed. Yeah, also. So
Oh,
then
I
Trump
would say
will get
I
he's
his.
think
the
they're
toughest
scared of
one,
cash.
dude.
I think they are scared of cash.
Oh, they are, and they should be.
I think
And
nobody's scared of anybody. I
they
think this
should
is all
be.
theatrics.
No doubt.
don't
Well, hey,
You
what do
don't
you think?
so? Huh?
I think Cash Patel is going to get confirmed 100%. Yeah, I think he's
Okay,
even
so
going to get
that-
Democrat
Coach
votes.
Trippi, that's the only
I'll
one you
say
think is
so.
of the three. Yeah.
I think Cash Patel will get Democrat votes. I
Okay.
do not think it will be along party lines, but I do not think Tulsi Gabbard. You got to, this just goes. I know you guys want to wrap it up, so I'm just going to say I don't think she's going to get confirmed. But her only connection to national intelligence was Syria, and Assad is gone. And what's the benefit of having her after that?
I keep on telling you, she's there to end the forever wars
Okay.
by stopping the intelligence agencies from funding money through the NGOs,
If she can do that, I hope
That's
she
what
gets
she's there to
confirmed,
do.
But my prediction is she's not.
which
gonna
is why they hate her. She's gonna, because it's the
So who
intelligence.
hates her? That
agencies
that dates back to the question: will
big-
or will she not get
the
confirmed? Will she
establishment.
What do you
the-
think?
the Trump has forced the arms. She will definitely get confirmed. It's
Okay.
gonna be tough, but just like Susan Collins, you're gonna see Murkowski. Yeah. People want
Those
to
are
say
two no's.
no. Susan Collins changed her mind today. Yeah.
Okay. Then she'll get
That's what I'm
confirmed.
saying. Oh no,
That's probably a good decision.
yeah. She knew she would get, primaried. It's they're.
I thought
the
Susan
calls
Collins
are
wasn't
Can
coming
you
even running
imagine
yet.
being at that desk? I would just be like, oh my gosh.
I'm telling you.
We have reports that you hate everyone who isn't you. Can you please
I didn't even
confirm? Will
think-
you confirm or deny these allegations? I'd be like, yes, they're all true. Anyway,
Oh.
next.
So,
Shut up.
and then one last round, and this
Yes or
is
no?
this is your big prediction about the success or failure of the Trump administration and stuff like that. So I'll leap out this time, and I'm gonna say Trump is gonna get a Nobel Prize for peace.
I'm going to say no.
He
Doesn't
should, but he
doesn't
won't.
every president get it?
No, you don't have to agree with this, or it's not.
Oh,
What's your prediction? Your independent prediction of whatever he's going to get impeached or whatever. I say he's going to win a Nobel Prize for peace.
I say he's going to continue to win the hearts and minds of all his sycophants across the country.
I think by the time he gets out of office, the fact that he can't run again may just completely put him back to where he was 10 years ago, kind of where he was actually a renowned, respected, and enjoyable entertainment brand.
Okay.
That could be.
I think it'll all stop, just like all the Department of Justice warfare and all this stuff. It's like once they knew he was gonna make it through, they're just like, whatever. Timeline's not that important, because the point was to keep him out or kill him. Either keep him out or kill him, right? Fail, wrong, right? So now they're just kind of like, let's just talk shit about him because that gets some good ratings. Let's put on a show in Congress.
Yeah, but
Because
all right. So what's the prediction?
that keeps the distraction, the wool over the eyes, so we get our PAC money coming in, baby. Oh yeah, come here, Pfizer money, Elizabeth Warren. Will you commit to not suing these companies? Oh, did you make 1.2 million in the last 4 years? Yeah, you did. Shut up. Everyone knows it. Shut up. No more theatrics. Vietnam's done. We don't need this.
I think RFK slapped Bernie and her around pretty good. So I was pretty good. I was pretty happy.
Is it
Oh, yeah.
hard?
Well, so here's the question. All right, so Trump's done in 4 years. Who's next? Are we going to go with Vance?
JD Vance with Byron
So,
Donalds.
you want my
VP,
prediction?
baby. Byron Donalds.
Josh Shapiro.
Yeah,
is
he's
gonna
good.
get elected.
Shapiro.
Shapiro.
I mean, I would take a Shapiro in office over Biden 97 times, but
Yeah.
I think
he should have been the
It would
running
have been a good
mate.
run for the money if they had Shapiro as vice president.
The
But I think they
They
set
should have
Kamala,
had Shapiro as president.
Camel Toe, whatever her name is. I think they set her up for failure.
They
100%.
did.
They said this broad needs to be out. I'm sorry.
I don't know what they did. All I know
Josh
is
Shapiro,
I
Marianne
think-
Williamson.
As
Versus
I've
JD
said,
Oh
Vance.
my
in
God,
Donalds,
Josh,
baby.
Marianne Williamson. There we
When
go.
they brought in Tampon Tim, I said this chick's done.
Well, you know what I said. I don't think Kevin's ever heard this, but I don't think Josh Shapiro was not chosen. I think he said no to be vice president, and that's how Tim Walz
I don't
got
know.
the job. Because the truth is, I think it's just granted to me. If you're on a losing ticket, it's hard to get elected afterwards. So Josh Shapiro said, thank you. He came
That's
out
probably why
I think though they
Sarah
might
Palin
have
never ran again.
they would have won
Right.
Pennsylvania if he was on the ticket though.
he didn't want the job, is what I think. I don't think he wanted to be her vice president. I don't think.
No,
he wanted-
you said he didn't want the job because he didn't want to lose. I said if he
Right.
got the VP job, there was a much better chance that he would have got the
He-
job. So
it-
I don't know. I
Pennsylvania-
agree with you 100%.
Pennsylvania wouldn't have got him elected. They
No,
No,
but
no,
they
I
would have
didn't
won
say that.
Pennsylvania.
I just said he would have won it, and then
Right.
of the other swing states, it's possible.
No.
I think. Well,
I
yeah,
think
but
the
I
other
think- I
swing
think-
states. When you think about the swing states, this is just my feeling on it. He won all 7 because Kamala Harris. I just feel like the theory was amongst the independents or the undecided, it's better the devil you know. Kamala Harris did not put out any information as what she was intending to do as president, and Trump was clear, even though there were a lot of promises he can't even possibly keep. He was making the promises.
Says you,
know,
but
I
that's
had-
okay.
Okay, so I haven't seen servers not getting tipped. I haven't heard anything, not getting taxed on their tips.
Taxed.
Haven't heard anything about it since then.
He's
That was
gonna
a,
make it
that was a
happen.
that was a
Gonna happen.
promise that won the
And he's
hearts
not
and
gonna.
minds of young
He's
people.
also not gonna tax overtime.
It has to pass through the Congress.
Well, if they're making money off it, then you might be right. It might never happen. If they're not making money off it, then they'll pass it. But if they're making
Okay,
money,
so all I was saying is not disagreeing with you that it could happen or it may not happen. All I'm saying is when Kamala Harris sit there like I'm running because I'm running with no policy
because
initiative
I'm Indian
whatsoever.
or black or whatever I am today,
And Donald Trump was literally making numerous promises on things that really the one thing that could have gotten him, the one thing that may have gotten him 7 swing state victories is that one promise. to
Which
not tax tips.
he's been in office for 10 days.
I'm not arguing. He has the whole 4 years to do it. I just haven't heard an inkling. I haven't heard crickets about it since he's been in office.
I'm sure he has a couple other things on his desk right now.
Uh,
So, but here's another thing, Kevin, and we're going to wrap this up shortly. But I think, to be honest with you, from watching everything, I think people have been worried about the wrong Trump.
That's really,
Yeah.
and that's interesting.
Yeah,
You
I think Barron's going to be a stone cold killer.
oh my God. Yeah,
That guy is a
that. I
genius.
agree.
He speaks 7 languages. He's super smart. And when he went over to Biden, we all know what he said.
You know, he said, "Nice to meet you."
No, he didn't, because his mom looked at him and said, "Be nice to him."
Biden is so senile and drugged up, dude. His face could change expressions 3
Anyway,
times.
I think he's the one we're going to watch.
One thing about Barron that we do know, he loves his suitcase.
He does love his suitcase. Yeah. Everybody will, and
Does
here's
he really
the
speak
scary
7
thing.
languages? I've never heard this before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's famous for that. Yeah.
He's a very smart kid. He's a freaking genius. That's why him and Elon are like buddies.
And he can dunk a basketball.
He's like 18 feet tall.
No doubt.
White men can jump.
Well, man, the last president who could dunk a basketball was Abe Lincoln, and we all know how
what's
that
kind
went.
of scary to me
Pretty good.
is I see a lot of my liberal or left friends online posting interesting things that I find kind of shocking. And like one of them today posted, "Have you ever wondered what it would be like to live in Germany in 1930? Well, now we're living it, so now you know what happened." I'm like, what?
That's your friend. I didn't see it. I don't have my friend on Facebook.
I didn't say you. I said a friend, a liberal friend.
I'm saying I don't know him. I don't know anybody that kooky. He's not my
Trust
friend.
me, I got a lot of liberal friends. Your boy Vern's probably one of them too.
Why don't we wrap it up, guys? I gotta still eat dinner.
Yeah. Well, hey, this has been fantastic, fellas.
I want you to come back,
enjoyed
Kevin.
it. Anytime. But hey, listen,
Kevin, one more time, promote your book and where they can find it, so our listeners can go get it and read all about you.
Absolutely. The book is Onward at Last, the 2024 Presidential Election Edition. And you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Nobles, all the national online bookstores and stuff like that. And you can also come to www.onwardatlast.com, and you can see all the payment links there. So, hey, I really appreciate it, guys. Check out the book. Check out this conversation. We have a lot that we can work on in this country over these next 4 years. There's going to be a lot of smoke and mirrors, but at the end of the day, there's an opportunity to actually make America great again. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, my man.
Let's do this again, guys.
Y'all take care.
All right.
you,
So,
Thanks,
guys,
Kevin.
thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you share, subscribe, like, tell a friend, tell everybody. Kevin, if you want, we'll send you this, and you could post it for yourself anywhere you'd like.
Appreciate it.
We want to thank you again for coming on our show. We want to thank our sponsor, Turbo Tint. If you're in Orlando, go get your car tinted. Show them your tint, and we'll take care of you. Just tell Derek you heard it on the show, and he will probably throw you out of the office. Once again, guys, thanks for watching, and we are out. Peace.
Bye, guys. Thank you. Peace.